One Piece. The strongest creature starts with extracting entries. Chapter 26. It is well known that there must be trash talk before the battle. Hearing Ikaru's mention Kaido, Runty felt relieved a little. She breathed a sigh of relief and put down the iron rod in her hand. In fact, she wanted to trust Ikaru's just now. For some reason, she always felt that Ikaru's had a very gentle affinity that attracted her. Is there anything else to pack up? Ikaru's looked at the surrounding environment. After Yamato dealt with these blind pirates, those spying eyes had quietly gone away. Runty ran to the ruins and took out a large bag of food. That's all we have. There's no more. Ikaru's brother, Yamato's sister, do you want some? I didn't expect that there would be a day when I could hear Runty calling Yamato's sister. After thinking about it, Ikaru's picked out 2 breads from Runty's food bag, gave one to Yamato, then raised the bread in his hand and said, I'm a little hungry. These are the reward for asking us to help. Yamato also nodded with a smile and said, yeah, it's not easy to ask us to help. Runty said nothing, just wiped her face, hugged Peggy Wan and nodded vigorously. Although Peggy Wan didn't quite understand, she nodded following her sister's lead. Okay, then we'll. Just as he was about to say something, Ikaru suddenly drew out his sword and thrust it diagonally upwards. Runty and Peggy Wan were both startled by Ikaru's knife, but when they looked again, they found that there was a big knife on the tip of the knife. Guheihei, huh, why is this weird laughter similar to that of Kurozumi Orochi? Ikaru's looked up and saw that although the other party was also a little ugly, his head was not as big as the one of Kurozumi Snake. It's you killed my father. Seeing this man, Peggy Wan pointed at him and shouted, obviously she had sensed something, such as her father's aura or something. Is that him? Ikaru's felt the other party's strength and made a rough judgment in his mind. At the critical moment, the special effect of the predict the future entry, danger perception, gave Ikaru's a warning, so that Ikaru's could block the opponent's knife in advance. Only, should I say that he has become stronger, or that the other party is too weak? This person does not put that much pressure on him. Logically speaking, anyone who can hunt down Teacher Kai's friend should be quite powerful, unless Teacher Kai's friend is not that strong either. Guheihei, a few hairy boys. The man put away his sword and actually began to introduce himself. Hey, is this some kind of necessary trash talk before a fight? Your father is really powerful, he said to Runty in page 1, even though he was seriously injured, he was still able to kill all of our Laji pirates by himself. But unfortunately, he didn't notice me. So, against him who has no chance of getting up, I have a 1000% chance of winning. Are you from Semperson too? Guheihei, he thought he protected you very well, but he didn't know that I already knew it. Ah, when he was dying, I told him, I know where your children are, and his angry expression really delighted me. Tax evaders, the composition is getting more and more complicated. Runty clenched her fists and shook her body. You are such an ugly fellow, you look like a toad and are as dark as a rat in a sewer. If I were you, I would have died a long time ago to apologize for my sins. Before I die, I would have said sorry for polluting this world. As soon as Runty opened her little mouth, the sound of birdsong and flowers could be heard. The man who was originally talking excitedly suddenly turned gloomy. Your mouth isn't very nice, kid. HMPH, now I, Wojuya Lesser, will reunite your family. The man who called himself Wojuya Lesser swung his sword, as if to chop at Runty in page 1, but suddenly changed his direction in midair and his target became Ikaru's. Brother Ikaru's, Runty and Peggy Wan shouted in unison. However, Ikaru's had already displayed his observation haki, and no matter what Lesser wanted to do, he would be exposed under his observation haki, which allowed him to briefly predict the future. But seeing this Lesser acting like a comedian, I didn't expect he actually has some real talent. The amount of his armament haki is very thick. Yamato, keep an eye on them. Ikaru's called on Yamato to protect Runty in page 1 to prevent any further accidents from happening. Then with a flick of his wrist, the second-generation Kidetsu danced on Ikaru's hand like a butterfly flying among flowers. Lesser shook his head violently, but still could not see the trajectory of the second-generation Kidetsu's blade. A drop of cold sweat dripped down his forehead, and Lesser suddenly realized that he seemed to have hit a wall. The kid in front of him looks like a teenager, but his strength is quite impressive. Damn it, why is he here? Or did the man call them when he was hiding and asked them to come over? Armament haki, harden. Lesser simply wrapped a large amount of armament color around his body, like CP9 who opened a block of iron, and was very confident in himself. Guheihei, In front of my powerful armament Haki, who dares to claim to be invincible, who dares to claim to be undefeated? Although he felt that he had hit a wall, Loser was still very confident. After all, no one has ever been able to break his armament color. What can I do about this little kid in front of me? The sword was raised high, and a fierce look flashed in Lesser's eyes. Runti and Page 1 did not yet have observation Haki, so they could not see the inky black armament Haki under the observation Haki, but they could feel that Lesser seemed to have used some means, and even his skin became shiny, so they could not help but worry about Ikaros. Yamato, on the other hand, was happily munching on some bread. Butterflies dancing among the flowers. The knife in Ikaros' hand turned into thousands of sword lights in an instant, and Lesser's knife that was about to chop down suddenly stopped. The truth is probably not that he couldn't get up again, but that he lost too much blood and died when he was about to chop you. Ikaros said lightly. Lesser never realized that the small map dried on his trousers had already betrayed his boasting. Therefore, the person who was actually hunting down Runti and Peggy Wan's father was someone else. Maybe it's the Navy, maybe it's pirates, who can say for sure. You, Lesser opened his mouth but could not say anything. Only the dozen or so bloody wounds that suddenly appeared on his body made his last sound. So now you can go back home without any worries, right? Ikaros put away the knife, always feeling that something was wrong, but when he used his observation Haki, he found nothing and could only suppress the feeling in his heart. In the distance, a handsome man in gentleman's clothes put away the telescope and compared it with the portrait in his hand. Silver hair and red eyes, that should be him, Charlotte Ikaros. Chapter 27. The punishment of boiling in a cauldron. Will Momonosuke die? After making sure there would be no further trouble, Ikaros and Yamato took Runti and Page 1 around the town before leisurely returning to the coast. There was nothing fun in this pirate town, and Yamato lost interest after just a short stroll. It feels not as good as the weapons factory. Facing the outside pirate town that he visited for the first time, Yamato gave it a very high evaluation. Runti and Peggy didn't understand what the two were talking about, they just followed Ikaros closely. By the time they reached the coast, Kaido was already lying there soundly sleeping. If someone approaches Kaido at this time, will Kaido suddenly pick up the mace and kill someone in a dream? Ikaros guessed with a little curiosity. However, Ikaros also has a unique way to wake up Kaido when he is sleeping. What? Someone said they can kill Kaido, the beast. Teacher Kai opened his eyes suddenly. It's time to go, Ikaros reminded, revealing Runti and Peggy 1 behind him. Kaido was sitting on the ground, still drunk. It seemed that he had drunk a lot after Ikaros and Yamato left. You little brat, you disturb me again in this way. Then, Kaido looked at Runti and Peggy 1 and asked casually, are you his children? After saying that, without caring whether Runti and Page 1 answered or not, Kaido immediately transformed into a huge blue dragon, scaring Runti and Page 1 so much that they retreated repeatedly. They were not afraid, it was just their first time seeing such a huge and majestic creature and it was a subconscious reaction. At the same time, a huge blue dragon appeared on the island, causing panic among the people in the port town. When he came here before, Teacher Kai inexplicably fell into a state of loss after drinking, and fell directly into the lake of the island with Ikaros and Yamato, so it did not cause a sensation. But at this moment, the port town was bustling with people, and the huge blue dragon was 1,000 meters long. People in the entire town could see the powerful and majestic creature, which naturally caused a great sensation. Some who have seen the world even exclaimed, it's Kaido. The Emperor of the New World, Kaido of Beasts. All of a sudden, all kinds of people appeared in the whole town. Some were crying, some were begging for mercy, and some wanted to join the Beast's pirates and let Kaido accept them. However, Qinglong turned a deaf ear to it, swooped down and soared into the sky. This time, Runti and Peggy 1 had the opportunity to enjoy the feeling of sitting on a dragon's back for the first time. Ikaros took out the protective gear that he had prepared long ago and asked the brother and sister to wear it. Fortunately, he made preparations, otherwise if Teacher Kai really took the siblings back like this, they would probably have been fed up with food. Calculating the time, when we return to Onigashima, there are already 3 or 4 days left before the Battle of Flower Capital. I wonder if Kazuki Oden is still in jail or has been executed in advance by Kurozumi Orochi. Kurozumi Orochi is a very strange person. He is obviously a coward, but he is always tough and unreasonable in ridiculous situations, as if his life is not his own. Even if he has 8 lives, he can't squander them like this. Kazuki Oden was defeated by Kaido, and it is Kaido who should decide how to deal with him. If Kurozumi Orochi is smart, he will naturally understand this, but Ikaros feels that he may want to get rid of his nightmare as soon as possible. Well, if Teacher Kai gets angry, Kurozumi Orochi might lose his third life. The land of Wano, the capital of flowers. The much-anticipated execution ceremony of Kazuki Oden is about to begin. Kurozumi Orochi sat on the platform, his face full of joy. Under the platform is a huge oil pot filled with boiling oil. Kazuki Oden, as well as several retainers such as Kinemon who were also thrown into prison, were handcuffed and shackled, and endured the curses of the people. In the eyes of the people of Wano country, Kazuki Oden is a complete clown. Kurozumi Orochi looked at Kazuki Oden's gloomy face and smiled very happily. Do you want to know where your son Momonosuke is? Guheihei. After hearing what Kurozumi Orochi said, even though he had asked a ninja to rescue his son, Kazuki Oden still couldn't help but look at Kurozumi Orochi, with a complex look of disgust and hope in his eyes. How dare you look at me like that? The black charcoal snake was furious. In order to prevent Kazuki Oden from escaping, he deliberately tortured Kazuki Oden for a long time before bringing him out. Even the handcuffs and shackles were the heaviest. Almost every step Kazuki Oden took would leave an obvious footprint on the ground. Now that Kaido is gone, I have the final say in Wano country. As he spoke, Black Charcoal Snake stood up from his seat and walked down step by step. This oil pan is specially prepared for you, with a temperature of over 700 degrees. Now you can neither release your domineering aura nor have the strength to resist. What can you use to resist this hot oil? When he stood in front of Kazuki Oden, Kurozumi Orochi lowered his voice and said, Kazuki Oden, do you think I want to rule Wano country? Guhuhuhu, no, I am carrying the mission of the Kurozumi family. I want revenge on the entire Wano country. That damn brat, did he think he could control me with poison? Impossible. To tell you the truth, I will send people to Oden Castle tomorrow. The people in that city, including your wife who stayed there, will all be destroyed in the fire. Of course, if you make a decision now, I can revoke it. That is, Odenjo, your son Momonosuke, which one do you choose? Kazuki Oden stared at Kurozumi Orochi, which scared him. Where is Momoko? Kazuki Oden's voice became extremely obscure as if due to torture, and every word he spoke seemed to be in pain. Guhaho. Kurozumi Orochi suddenly laughed and turned to face the people. This is the Kazuki Oden you once loved. For the sake of his son, he is willing to abandon the people of Oden Castle and burn them all to ashes. Kurozumi Orochi smiled triumphantly, opened his arms and announced to the people around him. Kinemon and his companions really wanted to curse Kurozumi Orochi for his shamelessness, but as they were also suffering so much, it was difficult for them to even speak, let alone explain for Kazuki Oden. Kazuki Oden, accept your fate. You will live in shame forever. Your reputation and dignity will always be despised by the people you love most. If Ikaros were here at this moment, he would definitely sigh that even a fool like Kurozumi Orochi can understand the strategy of attacking people's minds. Okay, bring out the evil descendant of the Kazuki family, Kazuki Momonosuke. Kurozumi Orochi sat back in his seat and dropped the last straw. After hearing what Kurozumi Orochi said, Kazuki Oden, who had already run out of strength, opened his eyes wide in anger, and his muscles bulged again, as if he was about to escape. Chapter 28 Momonosuke's Collapse. Oden's death. Kazuki Oden's action frightened Kurozumi Orochi again. After he confirmed that Kazuki Oden could no longer break free, he suppressed his fear and said angrily, execute them immediately. Push them all into the oil pan. In Orochi Castle, Ninja was anxiously looking for Momonosuke. 3 years ago, she became Kazuki Oden's disciple because she saw him complete his 5-year feat. Almost no one knew about this incident, and the Onawabenshu also classified it as missing. No one would have thought that she is now working for the Kazuki family. As long as she can find Momonosuke, as long as she can let Momonosuke go, she can rush to the execution scene and announce Kazuki Oden's feat to the public. Time is running out. Execution scene. Kazuki Oden stood in front of the oil pan. Even though he was at the end of his strength, he was still not someone an ordinary person could handle. The man who had forced him to move fell into the frying pan instead, and died in a moment. He was fished out and thrown to the ground, which made the people feel shocked and swallowed subconsciously. Kazuki Oden took a deep breath and said, Kurozumi Orochi, I want to live. Let's make a bet. Oh, The black charcoal snake was indeed interested and poked its head out slightly. The people were also attracted by Kazuki Oden's words and began to criticize him, just like usual. Let Momonosuke go. My warriors and I will jump into the frying pan. You set a time limit. If anyone survives by the time limit, you must let him go. The person who had just died in the pot was still lying on the ground. What Kazuki Oden said at this moment seemed like a fantasy to everyone. Let your son go. Let's see what your son says. Kurozumi Orochi laughed and waved his hand. A big man immediately came up with a bun stuffed in his mouth. Katsuki Momonosuke, who had never seen such a scene, was frightened by the oil pan, his eyes full of desire for survival. Under the threat to his life, Momonosuke widened his eyes and cried out. Even the people who were extremely disappointed with Kazuki Oden were somewhat puzzled by Kurozumi Orochi's actions at this time. After all, in everyone's opinion, Momonosuke is not old enough to bear all this. Just tell them that the Kazuki family is the offspring of sin, and you can go back and drink milk from your mother. Kurozumi Orochi laughed, with a sarcastic look in his eyes. He wanted to nail the Kazuki family to the pillar of shame. Momonosuke was afraid of death, but he also knew the glory of his family because of the education he received from Kazuki Oden since he was a child. At the moment, he was being forced by Kurozumi Orochi, so he could only shake his head and whimper. Kurozumi Orochi, Kazuki Oden roared, his veins bulging, and his handcuffs and shackles made crackling sounds, as if they were about to break. Kazuki Oden, what are you going to do? Kurozumi Orochi shouted fiercely. Half an hour, no, 1 hour, whoever can hold on, I will let him go. As long as one of you can survive, your son can survive too. After speaking these words at a very fast speed, Kurozumi Orochi saw that Kazuki Oden was breathing heavily and had stopped struggling. Humph, even if he was a strong man who could fight against Kaido, what good would it be? In the end, wasn't he still played around by him? Then, Kurozumi Orochi asked someone to bring a large bell and placed it on the platform. He could only get the greatest pleasure from watching Kazuki Oden collapse in despair and die. As for Kazuki Momonosuke, he's just a useless kid. After he's done torturing Oden, send him to reunite with Toki. Looking at the boiling oil pan in front of him, Kazuki Oden jumped in without any hesitation. In just a moment, under the high temperature, even Kazuki Oden couldn't help but let out an inhuman howl. Kinemon and a few others burst into tears and shouted that they wanted to jump into the oil walk together and live and die with Kazuki Oden. Momonosuke was watching all this right next to Kurozumi Orochi. The mental shock had reached its peak and he fainted. The black charcoal snake snorted with disdain. At this moment, Kazuki Oden in the frying pan made an unexpected move. He was seen in the oil pan, but he didn't know where he got the strength from. He pulled out the bridge board that jumped out of the oil pan, and carried it on his back in a blink of an eye. All of you, stay on the bridge. The next moment, Kinemon and others who were about to jump into the oil pan were blocked by the bridge board and fell on the back of Kazuki Oden. What? Kurozumi Orochi's eyes almost popped out. 1 minute, 5 minutes, time passed by second, and the uneasiness in Kurozumi Orochi's heart became more and more intense. Before I knew it, half an hour had already passed. Could Kazuki Oden really last more than an hour? Listen to me. Just as Kurozumi Orochi was anxiously watching the time passing by, Kazuki Oden suddenly spoke. That Kurozumi Orochi guy will never let me go. After the lesson from Ikaros, Kazuki Oden had understood what kind of person Kurozumi Orochi was, so from the very beginning, he did not believe in Kurozumi Orochi. You take Tauzi and run away. Go find Aishi. I've already talked to Aishi. She will tell you what to do. Because the huge oil pot was some distance away from the platform, and Kazuki Oden's voice was much weaker, Kurozumi Orochi did not hear clearly the conversation between him and his retainers on the bridge. He just saw that Kazuki Oden seemed to be talking, and his heart was filled with anger again. It's almost time. The 1 hour time is almost up. The temperature of the oil pan has already exceeded 700 degrees and is still rising. Why hasn't Kazuki Oden died yet? Did he really want to let Kinemon and his men go? No, absolutely not. Ikaros, go find him. He is the only one who is most suitable to lead Wano country. What? It was the first time that Kinemon and the others heard Kazuki Oden say such a thing. But he is not from Wano country, and he is still under Kaido's command. No, it's different. Kazuki Oden glanced at the unconscious Momonosuke. Just like Ikaros said, I did it wrong from the beginning. I've placed my bet on Hiyori. Even if he still doesn't want to be the general of Wano country in the end, he will definitely defeat Kurozumi Orochi and save Wano country for Hiyori's sake. This was not part of the transaction, but just Kazuki Oden's unilateral belief, and it was also his last time to believe. Next, I will throw you out, so be prepared. At this moment, on the bridge, Kinemon, Kawamatsu, as well as Inuarashi and Cat Viper, who were sent out of the battlefield at that time, were all here. They all looked at the black charcoal snake at the same time, and the hatred in their hearts reached its peak. They looked at each other, everything was expressed in tears and without words. Chapter 29, Momonosuke's death. Teacher Kai intends to teach seriously, ha. Kazuki Oden raised his hand and threw the entire bridge board out of the oil pan. At this moment, an hour was up and something unexpected happened. Kurozumi Orochi hid behind the seat almost instantly. By the time they realized what was happening, Kinemon and his companions had already rushed to the platform and tried to take the unconscious Momonosuke away at a speed that they would never be able to achieve in their entire lives. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Kurozumi Orochi found the courage from somewhere, drew out his long sword, and pointed it at Momonosuke. After all, they were still one step short, and Kinemon and others were furious. At this moment, a fat man covered in red and a beautiful woman suddenly appeared in front of Kinemon and his companions, and distributed the swords they brought to Kinemon and his companions. Ashura boy, Akiko, Kinemon shouted happily. At the same time, on the high platform, Anan and Denjiro also appeared quietly. While Kurozumi Orochi's attention was all on Kinemon, they snatched Momonosuke away in one swoop. Damn samurai, Kurozumi Orochi couldn't catch up, but he noticed Kazuki Oden in the frying pan out of the corner of his eye. He quickly took out his pistol and shot at Kazuki Oden. However, although Kazuki Oden endured the pain of the oil pan, he still squeezed out his last bit of strength for the sake of Momonosuke and his retainers to survive, suddenly jumped out of the oil pan, and punched it hard. In the critical moment, Kurozumi Orochi could only order the Onwabanshu to stop Kinemon and his companions from escaping, while he himself transformed into the form of Yamada no Orochi. Now that he no longer has Kurozumi Chanmaru, the user of the barrier fruit, he has to fend off everything on his own. Kazuki Oden's punch wrapped in hot oil had already made Kurozumi Orochi feel frightened before it even got close. At the same time, the appearance of Kurozumi Orochi, which had never been revealed to the outside world, also caused panic and discussion among the people, and the entire execution scene suddenly became a mess. Lord Oden, as Kinemon and his companions fled, they couldn't help but look back at the platform. Fukurokusho had already led the Onwabanshu to surround the execution site. Ashura Duji gritted his teeth and said to Kinemon and the others, "You go first, I'll cover you." "Damn it, how can I let you bear it all by yourself?" Kinemon looked at Kawamatsu, Denjiro, Akiku, Shinobu, Madame Toki and the princess are in your care. Inuarashi, Nekomaru, you are from Zou, you shouldn't die here, run away. Kinemon and Ashura Duji stood up, one on the left and one on the right, weapons in hand, without any regard for their own safety, just to clear away. Feeling the aura of several people fleeing farther and farther, Kazuki Oden finally grinned, "It doesn't matter even if I die, my soul will live on in the end." Kazuki Oden, die. Kurozumi Orochi, whose head had just been smashed off by Kazuki Oden, seized the opportunity and immediately grabbed the pistol. He fired several shots at Kazuki Oden, causing several streaks of blood to explode, for fear that Kazuki Oden would not die. Watching Kazuki Oden being shot several times by Kurozumi Orochi, Ninja really wanted to make everything public, but at the moment Momonosuke was in her arms, so she could only gather her strength and prioritize protecting Momonosuke. Kawamatsu, Okiku and Denjiro protected Shinobu and helped him break out of the encirclement. As several people ran desperately, and as Kinemon and Ashura Duji were seriously injured by being hit by muskets and chopped by swords, the four of them finally succeeded in protecting Momonosuke and escaping with the smallest cost. The situation was urgent and the four had no way to stop. They could only keep rushing towards Oden Castle, praying that they could save Amatsuki Toki before Kurozumi Orochi burned down Oden Castle. But Kurozumi Orochi was not having an easy time either. Although he finally killed Kazuki Oden, he was also killed by Kazuki Oden. Kurozumi Orochi reached for the long sword next to him, only to find a faint trace of blood on it. Kurozumi Orochi didn't care about that, and immediately swung the long sword again, slashing fiercely on Kazuki Oden's body, whipped the corpse. Even after his death, Kurozumi Orochi would never let Kazuki Oden rest in peace. Throw him back into the frying pan. I want him to die without anyone knowing who he is. As soon as he returned to Onigashima, Ikaros heard a bombshell piece of news. Kurozumi Orochi executed Kazuki Oden privately, which resulted in a series of incidents. Now, he has arrived at Oden Castle, ready to set fire to the entire city. Kaido seemed to have no reaction and just went to drink. Runty and Peggy Wan knew nothing and didn't react much. Yamato stood up for Hiyori Kazuki, who he was already familiar with. That big-headed demon actually wanted to burn down Oden Castle. I hope Hiyori won't be burned to death. Ika, let's go and take a look. With Schwanjiro and Kikunosuke around, there shouldn't be any problems. However, Ikaros heard that except for Raizo who had died on the battlefield, the rest of the samurai including the ninja Agnon appeared at the execution site in the flower capital, so there was no guarantee that there would be no accidents. After all, he had made a deal with Kazuki Oden, and he had to ensure the safety of Toki and Hiyori. Even if Kazuki Oden died, he could not break his promise. What's more, Kazuki Hiyori had already made a lot of preparations in order to board his ship. Now all the blame for killing Kazuki Oden has been placed on Kurozumi Orochi, and I wonder how they will view Teacher Guy. No matter what, let's go and have a look first. After settling Runty and page 1, Ikaros went straight to find Kaido. Until now, ever since he used the internal destruction technique of armament hockey to dissolve the explosion ring, Kaido has never restricted the two of them again. And after learning that Kazuki Oden held up his retainers in the boiling oil pan for an hour, and even jumped out of the oil pan and smashed off Kurozumi Orochi's head, the drunk Kaido cried and laughed. Kazuki Oden, your naivety is so ridiculous, but why can't I have a hearty fight with you? When Ikaros and Yamato came in, they heard Mr. Kai acting drunk. Before Ikaros could explain his intentions, Kaido suddenly stared at the two of them and said, "You, fight me. If Kazuki Oden can teach you, I can teach you too. And I can teach better than him. No, why are you suddenly getting so serious about this kind of thing?" However, before the two could respond, Kaido had already picked up the mace and hit them on the head. Oden Castle. Shinobu knelt on the ground, hugging the already cold Momonosuke and crying bitterly. It's all my fault. If I had revealed the truth earlier, if I had saved the young master earlier, perhaps things wouldn't have turned out like this. No, I don't blame you. Tien Yushi put away his sad expression and gently closed his eyes. It's all Kurozumi Orochi's fault. My husband's death, Momoko's death, Chapter 30 Father in the Dream, Ikaria, and Kaido, he is the man behind Kurozumi Orochi. Although Lord Oden was not killed by him personally, he was still defeated by him. Denjiro sobbed. My husband said that after his death, no one can defeat Kaido. But that boy, Ikaros, is different. Tianyu Toki said, he may have some kind of relationship with Kaido, but in the future, he will definitely be the one who can defeat Kaido. But, Denjiro wanted to say something, but was stopped by Tianyushi again. My husband once asked Anon to deliver his sword and a letter. Please take a look. As he spoke, Tianyu Toki took out a letter from his pocket and handed it to Denjiro. After several people had passed it around and read it, they all fell silent. If you want to follow a man like this, you must have extraordinary strength, otherwise, you will never be able to keep up with him. So, everyone, I would like you to train Hiyori. Please, teach Hiyori. Tien Yushi slowly made the gesture of getting down from the ground towards the others, and the shocked people quickly helped Tien Yushi up. Don't worry, ma'am, we will not hold anything back. We will pass on everything we have learned throughout our lives to Your Highness the Princess. Tien Yushi finally breathed a sigh of relief. Originally, Toki wanted to use the power of the time fruit to send everyone to the future, and then attract the attention of Kurozumi Orochi herself, but the death of her son was a great blow to her, and all her hopes could only be placed on her daughter Hiyori. However, although she no longer needs to use the power of the time fruit, she still has to stay in Oden Castle. Several warriors were puzzled and tried to dissuade Tianyushi, but Tianyushi refused. Only when I am in Oden Castle can I completely dispel Kurozumi Orochi's doubts and better protect you. Amatsuki Toki said, let's escape from Oden Castle quickly. Denjiro knows a secret place. Goodbye, everyone. As she said that, Toki walked towards the sleeping Hiyori Katsuki and rubbed her tenderly. Hiyori, Mom is leaving soon. Mom shouldn't have put all these responsibilities on you. But, as long as Kurozumi Orochi is not dead, there will never be peace in Wano country. Even if Kaido didn't exist, there would be others to take over Kurozumi Orochi's place. Only Kurozumi Orochi is the cancer of Wano country. Destroy the black charcoal snake and avenge your father and brother. I don't know if he was dreaming about something, but Hiyori Kazuki was mumbling something in his sleep. Momonosuke is a useless brother. Tien Yushi was slightly startled, and finally sighed, if I had taught Taozi well back then. The raging fire spread to the entire Oden castle. Toki stood on the city wall, looking down at the Kurozumi Orochi below. The black charcoal snake bared its teeth, extremely angry. Just now, Toki announced that he had used his ability to send his retainers to the future, and left a prophecy that future samurai will definitely defeat Kurozumi Orochi. This made Kurozumi Orochi very panicked. Although Momonosuke is actually dead, he doesn't know it. As for the samurai, even if Raizo died in the battle, Kinemon and Ashura Doji had been shot to death, so there were still a few samurai left, right? Burn it hard. Burn this woman who deceives people with her lies to death. The black charcoal snake cursed fiercely. Tien Yushi stood in the flames, looking at the bright moon in the sky. I'm sorry, Hiyori, Mom can't be with you until the end. Husband, Taozi, I'm here to see you. There was nothing that could dispel Kurozumi Orochi's doubts. Oden was dead, and Momonosuke was also dead. The only thing she wanted to do was to catch up with their souls and reunite the family even in the underworld. Well, except for the living one, Hiyori. Just like that, the curtain of Wano country fell completely, and this story was buried deep in everyone's heart. Ghost Island. Thunderous gossip, boom, fighting broke out on Ghost Island again. Ever since Kaido returned, a battle breaks out on this Onigashima Island every 2 or 3 days. At the beginning, it was just Ikaros and Yamato, but soon Jack and Black Maria joined in, and finally even 2 newcomers, Runty and Page 1, joined in. As for why Runty and Peggy 1 were able to join the melee, because they wanted to improve their strength, they stole the devil fruit. The person who was really hunting their father down is still alive, and they want revenge themselves. While Ikaros was being taught a lesson by teacher Kai with both pain and joy, on an island somewhere, a man with short amaranth red hair wrapped in a scarf sat together with a handsome man in gentleman's clothes. Save people, Katakuri groaned. Besides that, is there anything else? He is very powerful and has mastered extraordinary swordsmanship. He is suspected to have the same observation haki as you, and his armament haki is also very strong. Okay, I get it. Here's your reward, Carl. You did a great job. The gentlemanly man called Carl took the reward from Katakuri and asked, do you want to continue tracking his clues? Go on. Katakuri nodded. Also, has he never come into contact with anyone else besides this? Then I don't know. I can't enter the territory of the beast's pirates. Carl shrugged. The devil fruit I ate can only help me track his clues, but it can't help me fight. Hee. Katakuri only responded with a sarcastic laugh. Anyone who believed what Carl said would definitely die without knowing how he died. By the way, since he is your brother, he must also be from a special race, right? Carl asked casually, as if he suddenly remembered this matter. He seems to have never seen his father. Don't ask about things you shouldn't know, Katakuri said calmly. You just need to watch him and report to me at any time. Carl tutted and said, you actually know what's going on, about his father. However, as soon as Carl finished speaking, his figure disappeared into thin air. Looking at the vast ocean, Katakuri couldn't help but recall the terrible scene he had seen. I think his name is Daedalus. Icarus, the only child not named by his mother, the last member of the Icarian tribe who brought disaster upon himself. Your name, Ikaros, Icarians, no one can give you a surname, take away your name, spread your wings, and fly. Ikaros suddenly woke up and wiped his face. After he was almost eaten by Big Mom, he often had nightmares during that period. But after leaving Wonguo, he seldom dreams now, let alone this seemingly real dream and the first syllable of da that has been instigating him since he was a child. However, it actually does not seem to be da. Had he really never met that unknown father? Chapter 31 Ikaros without a last name. Kid, what are you distracted by? Kaido roared and knocked Ikaros down with a stick. Ika, Yamato shouted and was hit by teacher Kai. Brother Ikaros, Runty and Peggy 1 were also a little surprised. In these days, Ikaros' performance in the battle with Kaido is undoubtedly the best. Both the extent of progress and the improvement in dominance were incredible. It can even be said that after each battle there will be some insights, more or less, but there is always progress. This visible improvement really makes people envious and jealous. Even Kaido, in his drunken state, would accuse Ikaros of not having enough ambition and wasting his talent. Especially, when the domineering aura that once appeared briefly reappears. No one knows why Ikaros, who never thought of becoming a king, has the domineering aura. But today, Ikaros made his first mistake. His observation haki that allowed him to foresee the future was ineffective. Mr. Kaido, something is wrong. Jin seemed to have noticed something and walked forward to stop Kaido, who was furious because Ikaros was not concentrating on the battle. With King's obstruction, Kaido was no longer furious. He snorted and left. Their relationship was extremely good. Ikaros slowly climbed out of the pit he had fallen into and spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't even have time to use his armament haki. If he didn't have the talent of Iron Balloon, he would have had to lie down for a while before he could get up. In fact, his distraction was also caused by the strange dream he had before. He seemed to hear his father's real name in his dream, but it was not very real, but he got other information. For example, my own identity, Akaria. For example, my real name was given by my father, not my aunt. And, no one can give you a surname, and no one can take away your given name. The Icarians are a race with no surnames, only names. In other words, Ikaros, there is no last name, just Ikaros. Does Big Mom know about these things? Does Katakuri know? Is his father still alive, but is he not allowed to meet his children like Chiffon and Lola's father? Or is he already dead? In the past, Ikaros thought that he didn't need to care about these issues, but the truth was that he had never gotten any relevant clues. What are you thinking about? Jin walked up to him and asked condescendingly, if Mr. Kaido was an enemy, you would have been dead just now. No matter what you think or what you are confused about, now, cheer up. Ikaros tried hard to clear the chaotic thoughts in his mind, looked at Jin, looked at Yamato, and clenched his fists. That's right, I'm still here. I've experienced life and death twice. I shouldn't stop. Good. Very energetic. Seeing that Ikaros finally regained consciousness, Jin nodded with satisfaction, turned and left. Yamato came closer and stared at Ikaros until Ikaros felt uneasy. Then Ikaros couldn't help but ask, Yamato, why are you looking at me? Ika, what's wrong? No, there is nothing that would make me unhappy. Ikaros said casually, let's go out to sea. Let's go out to sea together. As long as we go out to sea and see the outside world, you will feel better. Runty and Peggy Wan, who were standing by, pricked up their ears quietly. Ikaros shook his head and laughed. Teacher Kai is enjoying being a teacher, and you're thinking about going out to sea at this time. It's really irrelevant. Then let's defeat father. As long as we defeat him, we can go wherever we want. Yeah, Ikaros didn't say anything else and touched Yamato's head. Her straightforwardness further inspired Ikaros. No matter what, his dream is to see the world. What do identity, status, and money matter? Well, maybe it is somewhat related, but in the end it all comes down to strength. However, after so many years of eating and drinking for free on this ghost island, Teacher Kai is now really teaching by example. Although he uses corporal punishment, it is still teaching after all. The relationship between them is indeed complicated and difficult to understand. The news from Odin Castle came, and Toki threw himself into the fire and committed suicide, claiming that in the future a group of samurai would kill Kurozumi Orochi and bring peace to Wano country. Ikaros knew that she had the power of the time fruit, but he didn't believe that she really teleported all the warriors to the future. At least there is definitely no one like Denjiro who is going to connect with him. As for Kazuki Hiyori, it depends on what Amatsuki Toki thinks. If he had not been beaten every 2 or 3 days on Onigashima, and his only free time was spent in the hospital with Yamato and the others, he would have gone out to find Denjiro to get the details. The ship has been waiting quietly in some secret place, waiting for the day when he would launch it. On the other side, Jin found Kaido and said bluntly, Mr. Kaido, if he still chooses to leave, what will you do? Hehe, you ask me what to do. Kaido just repeated Jin's question and asked, where's Quinn? We have already set out for the Udon Quarry. The daimyo of Wano country seemed to be making some moves. There's one more thing. Jin took out a newspaper. The newcomers over the years seemed to be a little too confident in their own abilities. Kaido took the newspaper and just glanced at it before bursting into laughter. Hehe, you dare to say you want to take off my head. After laughing, Kaido suddenly said, since he is so confident, let those little ghosts play with him. It will also be a training for them. Jin looked at Kaido. Use the name of the beast pirates. Of course. Kaido patted Jin's shoulder. Even if that kid wants to leave, I'll let everyone know that this kid came from my beast's pirates. So that's how it is. Jin nodded in understanding. Do you still need me to come with you? No, if we can't even defeat this kind of people, let them die there. Only through the tempering of blood and fire can the most powerful strength be forged. Kaido paused and continued. There is only one truth in this world. If you don't fight, you can't survive. Humph, I want to see what kind of quality that brat and his naive dreams have. If we don't fight, we can't survive. Jin repeated this sentence and chuckled again. Then I'll wait and see. But, aren't you worried that they will just run away? That brat is very stubborn. Even if he wants to run away, he wants to leave in a dignified manner under my control. Tisk, this is not like Ling Ling at all. Based on Big Mom's habits, that kid might also be a special race. Jin said, I discovered it a long time ago. Chapter 32 Kaido's entry, first voyage, that's right. Jin nodded. Whether it is the bizarre speed of improving strength or the improvement gained in battle, it is not something that ordinary people can achieve. Of course, at this time, neither King nor Kaido would have thought that just over 10 years later, several protagonists would rise from the lowest level of the four seas to become dragons in just over 2 years and defeat them. Soon, Ikaros received a mission from Jin. Ah, me. Ikaros pointed at himself. It's not that he thought he couldn't fight, but would Kaido agree to let him go? No, it's you. Jin pointed at a few people. Very good, all the members of Beisho Primary School are out. After confirming that he would indeed lead the operation this time and that no one else would follow, Ikaros didn't say anything more. It was impossible to say that Teacher Kai trusted him and would not run away, but he didn't have to worry about these things. But would Kaido care so much about a newcomer who talks so much? That must be impossible. Considering that Teacher Guy specifically asked me to lead the team under the name of the Beast's Pirates, his purpose is obvious. However, Ikaros did not reject this. After Cake Island and Wano Country, I can finally see the other side of the world. The Blood Pirates, Fergal Kodos, the user of the superhuman blood fruit. After searching his memory, Ikaros couldn't remember whether there was such a superhuman fruit in the original work. After all, there were many fruits that appeared in the original work, and Ikaros couldn't remember them all. It was good enough to have an impression. However, with the power of the devil fruit, as long as the ability is used well enough, it can be said to be extremely powerful even in the Grand Line. In a place like the Four Seas where domineering opponents rarely appear, it is even more invincible. The ability of this man named Kodos can be guessed from his name, it should be related to blood. Ikaros continued to look down. Kodos' resume was amazing. He slaughtered the city where he lived when he went to sea. The first bounty reached 50 million Baileys, but this number was probably because he caused too much impact. Then, after a series of events, Kodos killed the naval admiral who was chasing him. From then on, he became famous and his bounty soared to 70 million berries. This number is even close to the 81 million berries that Crocodile had before he joined the Shichibukai. Want to know who Crocodile is? He fought to a draw with Douglas Barrett, a former crew member of Roger's pirate group, and in the same year he joined the 7 warlords of the sea. He dared to challenge Whitebeard, the emperor of the sea. Of course, it was also because of his challenge to Whitebeard that Crocodile ended up in the same situation as Mariah who challenged Kaido. Now the Sand Crocodile is probably secretly preparing to launch the so-called plan to steal the country. No matter what, this Fergal Kodos is very strong and should be a rare and high-quality opponent. We'll set off in 3 days. Ikaros looked at the refresh time on the panel and said, there are still 3 days left before we can continue drawing new entries. This time, if I can get the effect of refreshing the entry, I will get Teacher Kai's entry. Soon, 3 days passed in a flash. The protagonist's halo effect is activated. The entry can be refreshed 3 times, 3/3, very good. It was worth it that I specially chose an opportunity when there were not many people around Teacher Kai. Battle Tutorial Purple Epic, 1 stick of Ryuzakura, 2 sticks of Tyrant, 3 sticks of Fruit Awakening. You can learn the essence of the battle between the enemy and you will eventually become the best teacher. Ikaros, do you have to be so obvious? Soon, the entry was refreshed, and a hint of gold appeared in front of Ikaros' eyes. Undead creature, gold. Legend physical energy consumption is reduced, the ability to withstand pain in extreme environments is improved, and the body's defense and recovery are enhanced, which increases with the improvement of physical fitness. So lucky, the product was delivered on the first refresh. Ikaros immediately extracted the entry, and surprisingly, He didn't feel anything special during the fusion process. With steel balloon plus undead creature, I am afraid that even if I stand and let someone chop me, the blade will be bent. When the opponent cuts off the blade, I turn my head and see that the white marks on my skin are almost gone. The buff of reduced physical consumption can also make his endurance longer, and finally, the long-term growth that increases with the improvement of physical fitness can also be encountered. In the near future, even people at the level of the 3 admirals may not be able to kill him even if they try their best. Even if he couldn't reach the mysterious immortal power of the 5 elders, he could at least treat the Marine headquarters as his own home and take the death penalty as his meal, just like Teacher Guy. It's really refreshing to think about it. Having got the wool, Ikaros retreated immediately. Fergal Kodos, let's try him first. The wind of the new world has begun to blow, carrying the big ships that have set sail, gradually heading towards the distance. A warship was moving in pursuit of the blood pirates. A tall curly-haired man in a coat of justice was lazily lying in a hammock on the deck. Vice Admiral Kuzan, we have found the blood pirates. Ah, my rare leisure time is about to be interrupted. Kuzan took off his blindfold and glanced at his adjutant casually. So where are they now? According to intelligence, the blood pirates are currently resting in the North Sea. North Sea, Kuzan smacked his lips. Aren't they from the Grand Line? Why did they suddenly go to the North Sea? We don't know the answer to this question yet, but there is another message from the headquarters. The adjutant said, it is suspected that a ship of the Beast's pirates attempted to cross the calm belt and enter the North Sea. So far, no activities of the Beast's pirates' cadres have been found. Why is it Beihai again? What a trouble. This may be due to the fact that Captain Fergal Kordos of the Blood Pirates made a bold statement to Kaido, the Beast. Will Kaido react to that kind of person? Kuzan showed a little doubt on his face, but it quickly disappeared. Forget it, everything will be clear when we get to the North Sea. North Sea. Cheers, cheers, cheers to the return of Rocinante and the reunion of the Don Quixote family. Doflamingo, wearing a pair of sunglasses and a pink feather coat, raised his glass. Today, the Don Quixote family has established a firm foothold in the North Sea. Coincidentally, his closest brother in the world, Rocinante, has finally returned. All this made Doflamingo very happy. However, just as the banquet was in full swing, someone ran in a panic. Boss Dover, the blood pirates have arrived in the North Sea and want to meet you. Chapter 33 Across the Calm Belt, North Sea, we can actually cross the doldrums. Ikaros sighed as he looked at the blue waves below the boat. Yeah, Uncle Jin said that this was a modification made by Uncle Quinn, but it's still in the experimental stage now. Yamato said, the so-called transformation is to replace the power of the ship and place seastone on the bottom of the ship, just like the Navy did. After all, this topic was studied by Quinn when he was still in MADS. However, as a scientist, Quinn only needs to modify the ship, but as the main force crossing the doldrums, Ikaros has a lot to consider. The doldrums are the areas on both sides of the Grand Route, separating the Grand Route from the 4 seas. There is neither wind nor current in this sea area, and the entire sea surface is absolutely calm. In this world where most ships are still powered by sails, once a sailboat enters here, it will lose power and become almost impossible to sail. But the most terrifying thing is not that it is impossible to sail, but that there are countless super large sea king creatures lurking under the sea here. These creatures are the biggest obstacle for ships to pass through the doldrums. Adding seastone to the bottom of the ship only reduces the possibility of being attacked by sea kings, but it does not mean that you can rest assured. Originally, Ikaros and his companions were going to the first half of the Grand Line, but halfway through, they received news that the blood pirates had gone to the North Sea. Therefore, they turned the ship around and headed directly across the doldrums to the North Sea. The ship is named Experiment Number 1, a name given by Quinn. The helmsman, navigator, cook, and servants are all brought directly from the Beast's pirates, so there is no need for the people from the Beast's elementary school to take on multiple roles. Haven't we reached the North Sea yet? There's nothing interesting here, so boring. Yamato lay on the deck board. The calmness of the doldrums made her extremely disappointed. Even the sea can get boring one day, let alone the doldrums where the surface is as smooth as a mirror and not even an island can be seen. It feels like we are the only group of people in the entire sea, although in fact this is indeed the case. Be patient. Ikaros patted Yamato's head. This calm zone is quite narrow and will pass quickly. Aren't there sea kings here? Is their meat delicious? How about we catch one and try it? Yamato remembered what was recorded in the logbook and immediately became excited. Huh, Catch a sea king. Ever since they got to know each other, Runty no longer hid her personality. Facing Yamato's proposal, she immediately retorted, "Do you know what a sea king is?" "Huh, isn't it food?" Yamato asked puzzledly. "You are such a stubborn woman." Runty was stumped by Yamato's train of thought. For a moment, she couldn't think of anything suitable to say to Yamato. She could only run to hug Peggy Wan and cry. Peggy Wan was obviously used to her sister's childish behavior. She pushed Runty away with disgust and said, "Get out of the way, sister. It's too dirty. Are sea kings really inedible?" Yamato asked Ikaros again in confusion. "It's really hopeless." Jack shook his head. He felt that even he couldn't say such words. In comparison, he still preferred the domineering attitude of Boss Kaido. "Hey, who do you think I am? Pull the boat over." Ignoring Jack, who was secretly practicing his middle school quotes over there, Ikaros sighed in his heart that Black Maria was less of a worry. However, looking at Black Maria's motherly eyes, Ikaros quickly retracted his comment. "They are edible, but you can't just catch them in the doldrums," Ikaros explained. He wouldn't care if a giant or even super large sea king was attracted, but the ship would be completely doomed. "Lord Ikaros, we are about to leave the calm sea." The navigator came to report the route and asked. The blood pirates seemed to be heading for the Don Quixote family, a newly rising power in the North Sea. Don Quixote family, Doflamingo. Yes, Doflamingo has risen quickly in the North Sea. The commodity trade, industrial management, and arms trade in the North Sea are more or less related to him. I heard that he is also connected with several emperors in the underground world. That has nothing to do with us. We'll do whatever mission we're given. Once we've dealt with the blood pirates, we'll just go back. Yes, Doflamingo, a ruthless man who has developed the string fruit almost to the extreme, is also a born evil. The only exception is how much he cherishes his family after he shot his father to death. I don't know whether Law has joined his family at this time. After eating the surgery fruit, Law should be the strongest doctor. It would be nice to kidnap him to be a ship doctor. Ikaros passed through the calm belt safely without encountering any sea kings. He was even a little surprised. After all, considering the effect of his protagonist Halo, it would be strange if nothing went wrong, but in the end, nothing went wrong. Are you holding back on something big? But it was a good thing that they were able to cross the Wufang belt without any trouble. The next step was to find the blood pirates. Since the blood pirates' target was the Don Quixote family, set sail and head straight to the Don Quixote family. Ikaros gave the order, and the flags of the beast's pirates fluttered in the sea breeze. Wow! Can I finally see the real outside world? Yamato became excited. Runty and Peggy One were also leaning on the railing and looking outside. The scenery of the North Sea was completely different from that of Wano country and even the New World. None of the people present were born in the Four Seas, and the extremely normal sea environment of the North Sea even made them feel a little unreal. Woohoo! Yamato shouted excitedly. The blue sea and sky, the islands in the distance, everything made her feel fresh. Meanwhile, the Don Quixote family. Hiya, Fergal Kotos, the famous captain of the blood pirates. Doflamingo squatted on top of a low wall, his arms resting on his knees, his eyes scanning the other party back and forth under his sunglasses. The famous Joker, Doflamingo, right. Kotos was very tall, with bronze skin and strong muscles. Hey, are you here to do business? I heard you have the nature type snow fruit. Hey, you're here for the devil fruit, right? Then, what price are you prepared to pay? Kotos grinned. I hope you can give it to me on your own initiative. Almost instantly, Doflamingo's smiling face suddenly became tense. Are you kidding me? This joke is not funny. The strong prey on the weak. This is the truth of this world. And I think you are weaker than me. Chapter 34. Navy, beasts, damn it, what are you so arrogant about? As a cadre of the Don Quixote family and a staunch supporter of Doflamingo, the tall Pika took a step forward and rebuked harshly. However, when his voice came out, the scene on the field became completely messy. Ugh! Looking at Pika's tall figure and hearing his shrill voice, Fergal Kotos laughed unabashedly. Ha, Doflamingo, is this your subordinate? Ha, if you can't find anyone, you can tell me. This captain can be magnanimous and forgive you, allowing you to kneel down and lick the tip of my shoes, begging to join my pirate group. Doflamingo's expression immediately darkened. It seems that I haven't taken action much, which has caused some people to be unable to see the difference in reality. Humph, The reward offered by the Navy is too low. I was just wondering how to increase it. Kodos also snorted coldly. Hey, you two, can you please make peace with each other? I don't want to make things too complicated. The extreme cold came suddenly. Doflamingo turned his head and saw a curly-haired Navy wearing a coat of justice walking slowly towards him. Behind him was a ground covered with ice. Hey, what day is today? Even the Vice Admiral of the headquarters has come to this small North Sea. Doflamingo chuckled softly, but in his heart he was cursing the failure of the intelligence organization, as they didn't even collect the intelligence about Aokiji coming to the North Sea. However, before they could speak again, another little brother suddenly staggered over, shouting loudly as he ran, "The Beast's pirates are here." Alala. Kuzan glanced lazily at the port not far away. He had left the warship behind and rode his small bicycle here in advance. The warship had not arrived yet, but at that port, in addition to the Blood Pirate's ship, a larger ship was gradually approaching, on the skull flag with 2 curved horns, 4 bones pierce in all directions. Anyone with a little knowledge can understand this flag, the Beast's pirates. How come they all gather on this day? This is really difficult. No one knew what Kuzan was thinking. He actually condensed an ice chair on the spot and sat down on it, with his legs apart and his arms resting on his thighs. The incident happened suddenly. Doflamingo also stopped the furious Pika and stayed where he was quietly, intending to see who the person who came was, whether it was a senior executive of the Beast's pirates or someone else. Although Kodos was arrogant, he had just angered Doflamingo and had a vice admiral by his side, so he knew that he could not take the initiative at this time. He simply sat there with his arms folded with the crew members he brought with him. For a moment, the scene was eerily silent. In the midst of this silence, a cheering voice broke everything. Woohoo! Yamato ran like a naughty child and soon came closer. Why are there so many people? Which one of you is Fergal Kodos? Being suddenly cued, Kodos was a little confused, but he quickly remembered the bold words he had once made. Does Kaido the King of Beasts hold grudges so well? Doflamingo and Kuzan were also a little surprised, but seeing that Yamato didn't look like a high-ranking official, they were a little confused. What on earth do the Beast's pirates want to do? Hey, Ika, there are so many people here. Yamato waved to the back. Several people looked in the direction of the loud voice and the waving, and saw 4 or 5 figures slowly walking towards them, 2 of whom were even slightly shorter. But no matter who it is, they all look very young and energetic. The Boy Scouts of the Beast's pirates. Such doubts inevitably arose in everyone's mind again. After seeing several people on the field, Ikaros immediately understood why he did not encounter any danger during the doldrums. Love is waiting here. He could have anticipated the appearance of Doflamingo, but he did not anticipate the marine who looked like the future Admiral Kuzan Aokiji. All of a sudden, the field was divided into 4 camps. There is only Aokiji on the Navy side, and there is only someone who looks like Pika on Doflamingo's side. And the last one is the Blood Pirates. Ikaros had seen their wanted posters. The leader is Fergal Kodos, and on both sides of him are his 2 younger brothers, Fergal Motos and Fergal Litos, one of whom is a user of the superhuman bone fruit ability, and the other is nothing. There are a lot of people here. Ikaros broke the temporary peace. Who are you? Kodos asked first. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Ikaros, said Ikaros. My name is Yamato, and I want to travel around the world. Yamato was heartless and introduced the names of Jack, Black Maria, and Runty and his sister one by one. What exactly do the Beast's pirates want to do? Ikaros tilted his head. Didn't you say you wanted to take off Mr. Kai's head? I am the only one who can defeat Mr. Kai, so, please say goodbye to this world. Damn it, Kaido, how can he look down on me? Kodos. Veins popped out. He's just a little brat, and he dares to look down on me. Hey. Doflamingo smiled. Things are starting to get interesting. Am I a transparent person? Kuzan asked in confusion, expressing his presence. Ikaros looked around. The most difficult person to deal with here was undoubtedly Kuzan. He was completely not on the same level as Doflamingo and Kodos at this time. At this moment, no matter who takes the first step, Kuzan will end up picking the spoils. At this time, Kuzan was also thinking secretly that he had never heard of the names Ikaros. Perhaps it was a power that the Beast's pirates had not yet demonstrated. A big pirate like Kaido would not take Kodos's boasting seriously at all, so there is no doubt that he sent people like Ikaros to show off his muscles to the outside world at this time. Just like the Navy propaganda about him in Borsellino and Sakaski. So, looking at such a young Ikaros, how strong is he? In the end, it was Kodos' younger brother Litos who couldn't stand the weird atmosphere and chose to take action first. In his opinion, they were just a few little devils, and he alone was enough to deal with them, without the need for his two brothers. Damn little brat, come and die. Litos drew the machete from his waist and chopped towards Ikaros. Hey, how dare you attack me by surprise? Yamato curled his lips, condemning Litos' behavior, and attacked him with a stick. Chapter 35, Big Melee, HMPH, how dare you look down on me, Lord Litos? Seeing that Yamato was even fighting him with only one hand, Litos became even more annoyed, and he unconsciously increased the strength in his hand. However, he soon flew back at an even faster speed. Huh, Kuzan let out a light exclamation. With his sharp eyesight, it was easy for him to see that Yamato's current strength was definitely not weak. It can even be said that an ordinary lieutenant general of the headquarters may not be able to defeat Yamato in a short period of time. Then, by analogy, wouldn't Ikaros be able to overpower the headquarters, Vice Admiral? They even look smaller than Ming Jie. However, there seemed to be some doubts in Ikaros' previous words. Kuzan looked at Ikaros suspiciously, always feeling that his attitude towards Kaido was not that of a subordinate. Litos took the first step and the balance on the field was immediately disrupted. When Litos was knocked back by Yamato with one move, Kodos and Moto's pupils shrank subconsciously. They knew the strength of their brothers very well. Although Litos had never eaten the devil fruit, his strength was not ordinary. Being hit back by a stick with one hand was something that had basically never happened even on the Grand Line. What kind of monsters are these people? Even if they are just the little devils under Kaido, can they have such terrifying strength? Oh, wanna fight? Yamato asked eagerly. Damn kid, don't underestimate us. The second old Motos, who possesses the ability of the bone fruit, caught Litos and became angry. Kodos watched Ikaros while paying attention to Kuzan's movements. The Navy shouldn't interfere in our affairs, don't you think? Ikaros was surprised that Kodos could calm down at this moment. This person who looks like a reckless man actually knows how to form alliances. Ah, Lala, I can't pretend I didn't hear this. Kuzan finally stood up from his pretentious posture. Pirates, please stop resisting and let me get through this mission easily. Ice Cube, 2 thorn spears. Kuzan crossed his arms, and several ice spears quickly condensed and formed in the air beside him. Oh wow, it's an uncle who can use ice. Seeing that Kuzan's ability is the same as his own, which is ice, Yamato's eyes suddenly lit up. Uncle, Kuzan almost condensed an ice spear when he heard Yamato's call, but the next moment, several ice spears were all condensed. Kuzan waved his hand, and these ice spears went towards Ikaros and others, even including Doflamingo. Hey, are all Marines such annoying people? Doflamingo said unhappily, foot shaving line. Blood whip, bone spurs, this is Kodos and Motos using their abilities. Thunder Bagua, Yamato's mace was also met with an ice spear. Ikaros drew his sword and decided to try out a new move he had developed since he happened to run into Kuzan. The Fire Red Lotus. Base the moment the sword was drawn out of the sheath, flames appeared on the blade. With a slash of the sword, flames raged, and the ice spear that was rushing towards him melted before it got close. Ah, it looks like this is going to be a difficult day. Kuzan glanced at Ikaros. The power of fire, it's really hard to deal with. Kodos' ability is even more bizarre. The whip he wields is clearly made of blood, but it has a strange blood-red flame. It really proves the saying that even dogs won't eat XX fruit. As for the owner of the bone fruit, his ability seems to be to use his own bones to transform. All the ice spears were dealt with, and Kuzan put away his contempt. Yes, it is indeed contempt. Although his passion for justice was somewhat dampened by the O'Hara incident and turned into lazy justice, for Kuzan, eliminating pirates is still his top priority. The power of the nature-type fruit and the mastery of the two-color hockey he learned from Garp allowed Kuzan to quickly gain a foothold among the vice-admirals. He was named one of the 3 future admiral candidates along with Borsellino and Sakaski, and established strong confidence in his own strength. Now, let's not talk about Doflamingo and Kodos for now. They have developed their fruit abilities very well and it can be predicted that they will be powerful pirates in the future. But Ikaros is different. He is young, younger than anyone else, and his relaxed attitude shows that Ikaros' strength is by no means inferior to Doflamingo and Kodos, and may even surpass them. It seems like we need to ask the headquarters to pay more attention to the Beast's pirates. Mr. Kuzan, why do you still have to work for the world government? Ikaros suddenly said, isn't the O'Hara incident enough to alert you? Although this matter itself was due to the fact that O'Hara himself was researching things that he shouldn't be researching, but when it comes to verbal persuasion, it's natural that one would choose to say things that are beneficial to oneself. What's more, Kuzan already felt guilty about the O'Hara incident, so why not use this incident to stimulate him? Ah, Ikaros, what do you mean by that? Although he was asking, Kuzan did not stop his hands. He raised his right hand, and ice energy condensed on his right arm, which was then quickly released, forming an ice bird at the moment of release. Ice cube, pheasant's mouth. The huge ice bird rushed over instantly, but Ikaros did not forget to talk back, Mr. Kuzan, the world government is nothing but a group of termites. The Navy thinks that pirates should be completely wiped out, so what about the celestial dragons who are shitting on your heads? I have no intention of defending the identity of pirates, but those celestial dragons, how are they different from pirates? Foo 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 foo. Doflamingo on the side couldn't help but laugh when he saw that the topic turned to the celestial dragons. If he were a child, he would have wanted to take back his identity as a celestial dragon, but now, he only wanted to pull down those high and mighty celestial dragons and make them fall into an even more humble position. The people from the Beast's pirates are quite interesting. I heard that the Beast's pirates are selling weapons and exporting seastone in the New World. Perhaps, we can make some deals with Kaido, the Beast's pirates. Doflamingo thought to himself. Several people used their skills again to break the pheasant's mouth and attacked at the same time. Ice Age. Kuzan's eyes turned cold, and his whole body exuded coldness. His observation haki was also constantly spreading to prevent his opponent from using his armament haki to break his passive elementalization. Ikaros, words did touch him a little. He thought of the fire in the O'Hara incident and the departure of Vice Admiral Garp's son Long. There are some things that can only be truly known by contacting higher-ups, and they are powerless truths. The Navy, one of the three major violent agencies of the world government, is simply a slave of the world's noble celestial dragons. It is better to say that the entire world government is almost entirely a slave of the celestial dragons. Chapter 36. Aokiji leaves and attacks. Strictly speaking, Kuzan does not have the overwhelming strength to fight three enemies at once. They were just making small attempts, but now facing Kuzan's real reckless use of his ultimate moves, Ikaros had to take it seriously. Jack, Maria, take Runty and Peggy Wan away from here first. Jack had been brewing the second-year quote for a long time, but he hadn't even uttered it yet. He couldn't even make a cameo appearance before he was forced to leave. He felt so upset. But he immediately transformed into a mammoth, took Black Maria and the Runty siblings, and rushed out. He does not have the ability to participate in this kind of battlefield. Damn it, if I were stronger, no matter how unwilling he was, Jack could only avoid Kuzan's freezing. Wow, Uncle Ice Cube is very strong. Yamato gave himself a high evaluation, and at the same time he looked eager to try, as if he wanted to learn from him. After all, Yamato is the user of the mythical beast fruit and is born with ice attribute abilities. She can directly copy many of Kuzan's uses of ice attributes. Sensei Kai has the ability to steal skills after drinking, and Yamato seems to have some talent for that as well. Will we be able to see Yamato riding a bicycle and strolling on the sea in the future? Blood attracts. Kodo stretched out his hand and clenched it suddenly. Suddenly everyone felt a strong attraction coming from Kodo's palm. Doflamingo could clearly feel that the blood flow in his body was increasing in speed, and was getting faster and faster, as if it was about to burst out of his body. No wonder he dares to be so conceited. This kind of ability would be difficult to resist if one did not have enough armament haki to cover the entire body without leaving any gaps. It would be really disgusting if this happened to you suddenly during a fight. However, it was obvious that Kodos had no good intentions when he used this move at this time. He wanted to catch everyone in one fell swoop, including Kuzan. Things have come to this point, and there is no time to waste. Fortunately, his previous ability to predict the future and sense danger was activated, allowing Ikaros to prepare in advance and retreat a long way with Yamato. Although Doflamingo failed to react at first, he quickly retreated with Pika by hanging on a thin line that was left in the distance. Suddenly, only the three Fergal brothers were left on the field, still fighting against the spread of the Kuzan Ice Age. Hiya, hiya, hiya. Doflamingo laughed his signature laugh again. Looking at Ikaros and Yamato who were retreating at the same time as him, he invited them, "Ikaros, don't you think that the presence of the Navy here is really too much of an eyesore?" Ikaros raised an eyebrow. "What do you want to do? Since your target is the blood pirates, why don't we work together and bury them here together? Aren't you afraid that the Marine headquarters will send more people to hunt you down? For example, Crane and Garp." Even though he knew the Navy would not kill him, a drop of cold sweat still ran down Doflamingo's forehead. He was not afraid of Garp coming to hunt him, but he was afraid of the ability of Suru's wash fruit. Hey, it seems like Ikaros-kun knows a lot. Then, let's make it our goal to defeat Aokiji. The two talked for only a short while, and Kuzan's ice age had already spread to the surrounding area. At this moment, his entire body turned into an ice man emitting ice mist. Kuzan didn't even look at the three Fergal brothers, he walked past them, and his armed color domineering gradually gathered on his elemental fist. Then, "Ikaros, I'll make the first move." Doflamingo laughed, as if he didn't care at all whether Ikaros would stab him in the back, but Pika beside him disappeared at some point. Super Strike Whip. Doflamingo stretched his hand backwards and swung it violently. Dozens of almost transparent thin threads twisted together to form a thick column of wire, which was thrown towards Kuzan. On Ikaro's side, the flower of fire bloomed even more vigorously, and the red lotus of fire rushed towards Kuzan in its fully opened form. Thunder Bagua. Lightning was wrapped around Yamato's stick, shattering all the ice that was attacking. At the same time. Octopus Stone. The disappeared Pika suddenly appeared behind Kuzan, broke the frozen ice on the ground, stretched out 8 rock tentacles, surrounded Kuzan, and pierced through Kuzan at an extremely fast speed. Kuzan no longer had his previous lazy attitude, and he said nothing, which unexpectedly gave people a sense of oppression. Pika's octopus stone arrived later but was the first to pierce Kuzan's body. However, the move missed. That's right, Kuzan had already elementalized his body in advance and expanded the points to be attacked. Pika's 8 rock tentacles could not cause any damage to Kuzan at all. But Pika was just trying to delay time, as Doflamingo's super whip had already arrived. Each thread is wrapped with armament hockey, and the amount of hockey brought together into a column is not small. But that's nothing. What made Kuzan most difficult was Ikaros' moves. Fire is an incompatible force with ice, and beneath the fire is Ikaros' armed color domineering wrapped around the blade. Not only that, Kuzan also vaguely felt that Ikaros seemed to have some means that he had not used. It might be that they were not necessary, or there might be some drawbacks, so they were not used. Moreover, each of his attacks happened to avoid some offensive points that Kuzan had deliberately hidden, as if he had noticed them in advance. This almost cheating perception made Kuzan think of someone. Katakuri. This kind of fighting talent is so terrifying. At this moment, a loud bang was heard in the distance. Kuzan blocked Doflamingo's attack, flew backwards in the ice, and turned his head to look. That was the direction of the harbor, and his ships were under attack, the mammoth-like ability user from before. What happened today is irreversible. Not only did he fail to capture the blood pirates personally, he almost lost his soldiers. Kuzan finally wanted to retreat. He was not afraid of wasting time here with Ikaros and Doflamingo, but the soldiers could not afford it. Doflamingo, Ikaros, I will remember you. Kuzan looked at Ikaros deeply, and seemed to have returned to his previous lazy state in an instant. He turned and left, quickly rushing towards the port. Bang! Kotos and Motos broke free from the ice and rushed towards Ikaros without any hesitation. Blood Baptism. Bone Wheel. A blood-red ribbon was wrapped around Kotos' body, while Motos' entire body was protruding with countless bones, forming a wheel shape, rolling over. Hey, why are you attacking again? Yamato instantly changed into human beast form, and rushed forward with his mace wrapped in ice vapor. Ice Slash. Chapter 37. Bloody Silence. The Navy's defeat. Feeling the chill of the ice vapor, Kotos and Motos shuddered subconsciously. Doflamingo at the side was also stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. Hey, I thought Aokiji was back, but I didn't expect Miss Yamato to have such incredible abilities. Ikaros ignored Doflamingo and looked at Cortus. He deliberately stabbed Kuzan in the back when he was fighting him, and now that Kuzan is gone he starts a sneak attack again. That's unsportsmanlike, isn't it? Then let me show you what true lack of martial ethics is. I, Ikaros, can achieve what I have today only because of my own efforts. Deep Blue, and, oh no, I went to the wrong set. Entry, start. The blazing white flames suddenly condensed into the shape of wings behind Ikaros. Against the backdrop of the blazing white flames, Ikaros looked like a seraph descended from heaven, sacred and bright. The wings of blazing white flame shone as brightly as his silver hair. As for whether there would be any problem in exposing this, all I can say is that the moves are meant to be used, and his real trump card is not the ability to fly. The burning white flame is different from the red flame on the blade of Ikaros. It has no temperature at all, as if it is just a simple wing. But no one dares to underestimate this pair of flaming wings. They could sense that this flame without temperature was more terrifying than the flame with temperature. What kind of power was this? The natural type flame fruit. But if it was the natural type ability of the flame fruit, he could deal with Kuzan alone. Ikaros didn't have time to care about what other people thought. Kuzan went to the port, and he had to hold Jack and the others back. Otherwise, it would be a lot of fun if they were caught by Kuzan. Originally, I wanted to practice with the blood pirates. Yamato, let's attack together. Ikaros started with a slash. With the help of the flaming wings, his speed was increased to an extremely fast level, and he passed behind Moto's in an instant. Although no temperature could be felt, the blazing white flame instantly melted Moto's bones when it touched his bone wheel. What? Moto's was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out. The wonderful painting style of the pirate world. Mu Shi Bing Fang. Yamato exhaled freezing air, cutting off the retreat of Koto's and Moto's. At the same time, his eyes condensed, and the domineering aura surged out. Full moon. Ikaros opened fire at full power, not only using his armament haki and observation haki, but also his domineering haki. Although I don't know the technique of entanglement yet, but releasing it for a short period of time is enough. The two domineering auras met, but not only did no conflict occur, but they pressed towards Koto's and Moto's together. Hey, this is a bit too scary. Even Doflamingo, who was watching the fight, couldn't laugh. Is it true that in the New World, Conqueror's haki is something common? Although Doflamingo's guess was indeed correct, for Ikaros and Yamato, the awakening of their domineering haki might really be related to Kaido's stick education. Teacher Kai, you are so kind. What? No matter how capable Koto's and Moto's were, they would never have thought that the two of them actually possessed the so-called one-in-a-million domineering aura, and there were two of them at once. Although it is still a little immature, there is no doubt that it has reached the level of being able to release it actively. Like a knife slashing down from the full moon hanging high in the sky, the two brothers knelt down instantly. Then, Ikaros took out a few seastone handcuffs from somewhere, quickly handcuffed the three Fergal brothers, and flashed towards the port. Yamato threw out a thick rope, tied the three Fergal brothers together, and without even looking at Doflamingo, he pulled the rope and ran towards the port. Foo. Doflamingo was only briefly stunned and then started laughing again. Dover, what are you laughing at? Pika's shrill voice rang out, making Doflamingo, who was about to laugh out loud, suddenly embarrassed. However, Doflamingo still smiled and said, Pika, don't you think that the Beast's pirates are a good partner? Hey, once things are stable here, I will contact Kaido. There was a light hidden in Doflamingo's eyes. Port Coast. Jack, who had just brought the people back, saw at a glance that the Navy warship that was approaching the shore was in conflict with the Beast's pirates, and in the middle were the voices of the crew members on the Blood Pirates ship that had become a battlefield. How ridiculous. Jack roared like an elephant, and finally blurted out the second-year sayings he had practiced for many days, pull the boat over. Black Maria held her forehead with her hand, too lazy to complain about Jack anymore, and immediately transformed into the human beast form of the rose wolf spider. Black Maria, whose body was originally larger than that of an average person, became even larger after transforming into a humanoid form. Her upper body was humanoid, and her lower body was a spider. At this time, Black Maria had not yet undergone drug transformation, and the spider face in the lower body did not have any facial features. Black Maria jumped up from Jack's elephant's back and flicked her fingers. Countless spider webs were released, binding up the Navy in front of her and the members of the Blood Pirates. At the same time, Runty and Page 1 also transformed into beast form and rushed into the Navy soldiers. For a moment, these naval soldiers were simply unstoppable. Kuzan's adjutant was overwhelmed and had already gone to stop Jack, so he was naturally powerless against Black Maria and Runty. At this moment, a shock wave condensed from cold air came at a high speed from a distance, and everything it passed was frozen in place, and finally went towards Jack's huge elephant body. Frozen time capsule. Kuzan jumped up and came close in an instant. It's Lieutenant General Kuzan. Damn pirates, taste the iron fist of justice. Any evil will be brought to justice. Seeing Kuzan's return, the Navy soldiers cheered. After all, since Kuzan's debut, he has rarely failed. No matter what kind of pirate it is, he will be turned into an ice sculpture in Kuzan's hands. Huh, Black Maria, who was fighting excitedly, glanced at Jack, who was suddenly frozen, and Kuzan, who was standing on the frozen sea. Where is Brother Ikaros? Peggy 1 asked blankly. Kuzan didn't say anything. He was thinking whether he should take all these people back. However, there is a saying that goes, if you hesitate, you will fail. Ikaros, with his flaming wings spread out, had caught up with him at a very fast speed. Without a word of greeting, he just slashed at him with his sword. It consumes too much energy to maintain this terrifying white flame in the wingspan state. Even with the buff of Mr. Kai's undead creatures item to reduce the consumption, it still depends on how long Ikaros' current energy bar is. There really is a hidden power. Ku praised, Richie, take the soldiers and leave here. I will cover your retreat. Chapter 38. Fame in the Sea, official reward. At the same time, Ikaros also ordered Black Maria and Runti to retreat to the ship, and threw out a red flame to melt the ice that froze Jack. What exactly are your abilities? Kuzan tried to figure out Ikaros' abilities. Although flame abilities are common, wings like Ikaros that are made up of both red and white flames are still very rare. Especially the white flame, although you can't feel the existence of temperature, it seems to be able to melt everything. Seeing Kuzan racking his brains to think, Ikaros felt really happy. Surrounded by the domineering aura of armed color, Kuzan swung his fist again, and the cold air collided with Ikaros' long sword. Ika, here I come. On the shore, Yamato, who was dragging the 3 Fergal brothers, threw the 3 brothers, who were packed tightly, onto the boat with all his strength. Mr. Kuzan, do you want to continue fighting? Ikaros said with a smile, I can still hold out, but I wonder if your soldiers can. Kuzan's face changed, and he saw that the big ship with the flag of beasts was starting to move. He instinctively wanted to trigger an ice age to freeze the sea, but on the one hand, the Navy ships were there, and on the other hand, although Ikaros did not have the strength to crush him, he was like a piece of taffy that could not be shaken off. The most important thing is that Ikaros actually seemed to be determined to fight for injury with injury, which made Kuzan think that Ikaros had some backup plan and he couldn't let go completely. Brother Ikaros, how about you and I stop here? After a long period of silence, seeing that the beast ship was about to catch up with the Navy warship, Kuzan finally chose to take a step back. Not only Ikaros, but even the ship of the beast's pirates is a bit weird. It was obviously started later, but it was able to catch up with the Navy warship, which represents much more advanced technology than the pirate ship. Of course, Ikaros said with a smile. After all, I came here only for the blood pirates. I have never thought about making enemies with the future admiral of the Navy. Hey, hearing Ikaros' slightly teasing words, Kuzan was too lazy to pay attention and stepped back. Watching Kuzan leave, Ikaros breathed a sigh of relief, landed on the blood pirate's ship, and folded his flaming wings. I just used up a lot of my energy fighting for a while. Your captain has been captured by me, surrender or die. Submit, we are willing to surrender. The noisy pirates suddenly quieted down. Go ahead, follow my boat. Yes, yes. Looking at the beast ship and the blood pirate's ship going away, Kuzan's face became gloomy. Commander Kuzan, we have checked them out, and the ship's doctor has tried his best to treat the seriously injured. Okay, Kuzan nodded. Call headquarters immediately. I have something important to report. Yes. Holy Land Marihoa, Hall of Power. 5 tall old men were either standing or sitting, with a stack of documents on the table in front of them. These 5 people are the apparent pinnacle of the world government, the 5 elders. Charlotte Ikaros, from the Big Mom Pirates, is now suspected to have joined the Beast's pirates. Nasu Jiro, a bald 5 elders wearing a white Taoist robe, holding a knife, said, is there no more information? Could this be a signal of a joint effort between the Big Mom Pirates and the Beast's pirates? No, that shouldn't be the case. From the information we have, it is more likely that he was captured by Kaido. Sardin, who had a fluffy beard and white curly hair pressed down by a noble flat hat, pondered. Besides, if it was 2 big pirates joining forces, the movement would not be so small. Besides, I think this kid might not approve of Big Mom. Does he recognize Kaido? Although it is possible, I always feel that things may not be that simple. Forget it, let's just leave it at that. Let the Navy headquarters draw up a wanted order. As for the reward, by the time Ikaros brought the pirates of the Blood Pirates back to Onigashima, a new wanted poster had already been published in a new issue of the World Economic News. The Blood Pirates ship was abandoned before entering the calm zone. All the things on it that could be moved had been moved back, and the members of the Blood Pirates were tied back along with the 3 Fergal brothers. Oh wow, we are wanted. Yamato held the World Economic News and looked at it page by page. Runty, Peggy Wan, reward, 30 million Baileys. What? The reward is only 30 million Baileys. Damn Navy. Runty was angry and seemed very dissatisfied with her bounty. In fact, considering that Runty and Page 1 are only able to bully miscellaneous soldiers now, the 30 million has been determined based on their future potential. Black Maria's bounty is 50 million Baileys, and Jack's is 70 million Baileys. What? I only have 70 million Baileys. Jack snorted. At this moment, Yamato suddenly slammed the newspaper on the table and said, "It's just Ika and I left. Let's guess how much bounty we have." If it's brother Ikaro's, Page 1 thought about it, but couldn't figure it out. He was not that sensitive to the bounty value. It must be more than 100 million Baileys. Runty put her hands on her hips. Jack also nodded. Well, I have to say, it is true that Ikaro's is at least stronger than me. Hee, the mystery is solved. Yamato laughed, opened the newspaper and looked at his photo. Wow, I look great in this photo. The bounty, 100 million Baileys. Huh, just when they thought Yamato was surprised by his high bounty, they heard the second half of Yamato's sentence. Why is it so little? So you felt that the reward was too little. Finally, it's Ika. Yamato slowly moved his arm covering the bounty and counted the number carefully. 300 million Baileys. Wow. Runty and Peggy's eyes were full of stars. 300 million Baileys. That's 3 times as much as Yamato. Hey, I'm going to be angry if you say that. Yamato puffed up his cheeks and glared at the two of them. What are you doing? At this time, Ikaros pushed open the door and walked in. Ika, come and see, we've been rewarded. It's quite normal. It would be quite strange if there was no bounty for a fight with the Navy. Ikaros nodded and took the newspaper. Due to the spread of the World Economic News, the wanted notices issued by the Navy headquarters will also be published in the newspaper. In Morgan's report, there was no mention of the battle between Ikaros and Kuzan. It simply wrote about Ikaros defeating the Blood Pirates in the North Sea and escaping unscathed from the hands of a vice admiral. To escape unscathed from the hands of a vice admiral. As expected, you studied journalism. Ikaros shook his head. However, it is also possible that the Navy deliberately concealed the information and only told Morgans this. Chapter 39. Dyed with the colors of the Beast's pirates, the first bounty reached 300 million Baileys. This kid gave us a big surprise. Jin exclaimed. What's the use? This brat has strong wings. Kaido took a sip of wine. Is it not possible to form a pirate group under the banner of the Beasts? Kaido was so angry when this was mentioned. Do you know what that brat said? He still hasn't given up that ridiculous dream. He even told me that his power exists to protect his dream. Jin laughed. Isn't it quite interesting? Hee. Anyway, I'm going to start a war that will sweep the entire world. Then we'll see how that little brat continues to travel around the world. By the way, do you think that little ghost has become even weirder? Yeah, just like you, Mr. Kaido. Jin said. This kid might really be a special race. Ling Ling really gave me a big surprise. But since the bounty on this little devil has been put on the market, isn't it about time Ling Ling saw it? Jin shook his head. Mr. Kaido, if she really wanted to find her, she would have come here long ago. How could there be no movement for several years? Now that you mention it, that's true. Kaido gulped down another mouthful of wine, his face flushed. By the way, Mr. Kaido, are the people he brought with him going to be sent to Rabbit Bowl? Send it. Of course we have to send it. Kaido glared. That toss, isn't there still one person who hasn't eaten the fruit yet? If they join the Beasts, give them one. Okay, I'll arrange it right away. After Jin left, Kaido drank the last sip of wine in the jar, squinted his eyes and said to himself, what are you thinking, you little bastard? How can I not recruit anyone after you leave? If you insist on leaving, I will let others know that you left my Beasts pirates. Ellipsis quote question mark. Me. Ikaros pointed at himself. Why me again? This is the mission Mr. Kaido has assigned to you. Mr. Kaido said that within 1 year, If you can solve the other problems of the Beast's pirates just like you solved the problem of the weapons factory, Mr. Kaido will let you and Yamato go. Hey, Ikaros chuckled disdainfully. He didn't believe a word Teacher Kai said. Forget it, what mission? Fighting on behalf of the Beast's pirates. What? Ikaros looked up at Jin. The situation in the New World is turbulent. Among the three most powerful pirate groups, only Mr. Kaido's forces have not expanded. Just like we conquered the Blood Pirates, we will conquer other pirate groups and fight for Mr. Kaido. Even though the New World is ruled by a few big pirates and is an area specially designated by the world government for wild growth, there are still many pirate groups in the New World, including the Blood Pirates, which are countless. At present, Mr. Guy has not yet started the research on artificial animal-type fruits. He is only trading seastone and weapons with the world government. He has money but no people. So it is normal for him to want to recruit people, after seeing Ikaros returning with the Blood Pirates. Of course, as long as Teacher Kai is willing to let go and raise his arms to call for more people, as many people as he wants will come. But if that's the case, all those who come are useless cannon fodder, and there won't be many high-end goods, like the Blood Pirates. Teacher Kai has never lacked cannon fodder, but he only lacks grassroots backbones who can lead a team independently. But at the same time, this outward expansion also sends a signal to the outside world. This makes Ikaros' external image full of the colors of the Beast's pirates. In this way, even if Ikaros leaves the Beast's pirates again, people will first think of him as coming from the Beast's pirates. Unless Ikaros can reach at least the same height as Jin, or in other words, do something that is enough to shock the world, such as burning the flag of the world government or casually beheading a celestial dragon. However, with such a high-profile bounty on his head, the Big Mom pirates should have noticed him as well. Ikaros never doubted Katakori's ability, and he would be able to find his way even if he was not wanted. Then perhaps we should also pay attention to the movements of the Big Mom pirates. After all, to the nominal mother, this was considered a betrayal. Ikaros suspected that he almost entered her stomach shortly after he was born. If I count this way, I have been on the verge of life and death twice, and both times were related to my aunt. Could it be that the effect of protagonist halo is not entirely caused by the panel, but as a result of one's innate disastrous physique? If you get a chance, just ask Katakori. Back to reality, Ikaros read the documents that Jin gave him one by one. Most of these are slightly ordinary pirate groups, at least not as good as the Blood Pirates, and only a few are of a similar level to the Blood Pirates. Although all the members of Beisho Primary School were mobilized this time, they were divided into two teams. Ikaros and Yamato took one, and Jack and Black Maria took the other. As for Runti, she didn't want to be separated from Peggy Wan on two different ships, so the siblings both followed Ikaros. As for why not following Jack, Runti's original words were, Jack only said to pull the boat over, and who would follow him? After hearing Runti's reasons, Jack shed tears silently, and made up his mind to think of some new middle school quotes so that he wouldn't repeat the same ones when he went out next time. However, before leaving, Ikaros went to Wano country. Ever since Kurozumi Orochi killed Kazuki Oden, he has been in a panic all day long because of the prophecy made by Toki before his death, and could only cover up his guilt by indulging in drinking and having fun. However, after another failed attempt to seek medical treatment and detoxify, Kurozumi Orochi completely gave up the idea of being on equal footing with Kaido, and could only honestly proceed with the opening of the weapons factory and recruiting workers step by step. The uprising of the daimyo was suppressed by him asking Kaido for help, and he was imprisoned in the prison of the Flower Capital. A gang leader named Kiyoshiro later surrendered and became Kurozumi Orochi's right-hand man. What made Kurozumi Orochi angry was that every once in a while, a man named Ugly Boy San would come with a little follower to rob the rich and give to the poor. All those robbed were the wealthy members of the samurai family that followed Kurozumi Orochi. However, no matter who was sent, they could not find any trace of Ugly Boy San, not even Kiyoshiro, the person Kurozumi Orochi relied on the most. In a secret place, Kikunosuke, wearing a light yellow kimono, bowed slightly to Ikaros, behaving like a real woman from Wano country. Your Highness Ikaros. Chapter 40 Final Preparations for Going to See Him. Ikaros was very sensitive to Kikunosuke's address. Kikunosuke was a retainer of Kazuki Oden, but now he calls himself His Highness. Could it be that Kazuki Oden was not at peace even after his death, and he has dug some big trap for him? Although he got Kazuki Oden's Horcrux, he didn't want to become Kazuki Oden. Your Highness Ikaros, it's been a long time since we last met. Kikunosuke poured a cup of tea and pushed it in front of Ikaros. It's been a long time. When Oden Castle was burned, I happened to be away from Onigashima. Otherwise, Lady Amatsuki Toki wouldn't have chosen to commit suicide. Although Ikaros knew that Ming Yushi was most likely having a love sickness attack and wanted to chase after Kazuki Oden, he still had to give her some face. After all, she was Hiyori's mother, and death is the greatest thing. Your Highness Ikaros, there is no need to say this. You are the one chosen by Lord Oden and Lady Toki. We trust you. Okay, it's you, Kazuki Oden, with your thick eyebrows and big eyes. Ikaros was secretly complaining. Ever since I started practicing swordsmanship with him, this guy has never stopped brainwashing me. Sometimes when he's in the mood, he'll even ask me about women. It's outrageous. Your Highness, that's not necessary. I'm not your master, much less Kazuki Oden. Don't try to impose his methods on me. These are not included in the deal I made with him. But didn't you fail to keep your promise and save Madame Shi? No, you little nannyang. Ikaros was a little annoyed. That's because I wasn't on Ghost Island at the time. Besides, she was clearly seeking death on her own initiative. It would be pointless for you to use moral kidnapping against her. I'm sorry, Your Highness Ikaros, but you are the only one who can save Wano country now. As he spoke, Kikunojo slowly knelt in front of Ikaros. I have heard about your strength. Raizo, Kanamon, and Ashura Duji, they have all died in the battle. Inuarashi and Nekomamushi have returned to their hometown of Zo according to Lord Oden's last wish. Even the daimyo were imprisoned by Kurozumi Orochi. Now only Kawamatsu, Denjiro, and Shinobi are left holding on. The responsibility on your shoulders is too heavy. Even if you are unwilling to help, the four of us have only one request. I hope that when Her Highness the Princess goes to fight against the Kurozumi Orochi in the future, you can protect her from being killed by Kaido. After all, I still feel sorry for Oden's child. No one goes to the future. Speaking of Oden's cubs, Ikaros remembered something else. Where did you hide Momonosuke? Was he teleported to the future by Toki? Kikunosuke showed a puzzled look. When Nin saved Lord Momonosuke, he didn't notice that his neck had been cut by the blade of Kurozumi Orochi. Since Kurozumi Orochi's blade was coated with a deadly poison, when we arrived at Oden Castle, Lord Momonosuke had already died. Wow, this is such a juicy piece of news. It's a pity that I got to know it so late. However, is the poison of the Kurozumi Orochi so fierce? Forget it, it's a pirate specialty that you have to try. Bombs can kill people or not, and the same goes for poison. It's too normal. I didn't expect Momonosuke to be so miserable. Although he raped women, peeked into the women's bathhouse, and stole people's underwear, he is still a child after all. Ikaros said as if, sighing. Kikunojo was a little embarrassed and could only quickly change the subject. Your Highness Ikaros, according to Kawamatsu's observation, there will be a window period every once in a while in the dark port. During this window period, we can send the ship out. At that time, you and Your Highness Yamato can take Her Highness the Princess away from Wano country. Okay, I get it. Plans can never keep up with changes. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Ikaros stopped Kikunosuke from continuing and asked, what about you guys? We will stay in Wano country and wait for the return of the princes. Moreover, since Lord Oden was publicly executed by Kurozumi Orochi, although Lord Oden's image has not been restored, Kurozumi Orochi has also been questioned. Many people already know that Kurozumi Orochi only dares not disrupt Wano country because he is restrained by you, me. What the hell does this have to do with me? Why am I being put in the spotlight? Oh, this is Lord Oden's order. He said that although this is part of the deal, you can't let your efforts go in vain. At least we have to reduce some of the obstacles for you to become the general of Wano country. No, Ikaros felt that there was no point in continuing the conversation that day. Why are there things related to Kazuki Oden everywhere? Teacher Guy wants Yamato to become the general of Wano country, and you, Kazuki Oden, want to do the same thing too. You insist that I become the general of Wano country, right? Forget it, I'm tired, let it be destroyed. Your Highness Ikaros, excuse me for being blunt, but why are you unwilling to establish contact with Wano country? Asked Kikunosuke. Haha, Kazuki Oden knew what I really wanted to do, but he still wanted me to help him achieve his goal of founding a country. Why don't you wait until you die and ask Kazuki Oden why he abandoned Wano country and boarded Whitebeard's ship? That's it, I'm going back. I'll have to help Kaido for another year. See you here in a year. Please apologize to Hiyori for me and Yamato. We need her to wait a little longer. Okay, Your Highness Ikaros, this sword is Yanmo, which Her Highness the Princess left for me to give to you. The other sword, Tianyu Yuzan, is in Her Highness the Princess's hand. Yanmo was part of the transaction, and Ikaros took it over without any psychological burden. As for Tianyu Hanzan, since Hiyori wanted to practice swordsmanship to improve herself, then leave it to her. Ikaros didn't lack this sword. I wish you good luck in martial arts. Finally, Kikunojo gave his blessing. I have to say, if Kazuki Oden hadn't existed, Ikaros and Kikunosuke might have been able to have some normal conversations. Everything is ready, only the east wind is missing to go out to sea. Ikaros, Kaido, and the Beast's pirates are becoming increasingly close, but their desire to explore the world is becoming increasingly restless. Now he is like an undercover agent in infernal affairs. If he continues like this for 3 years, he will probably become the third disaster of the Beast's pirates, and a passive one at that. Back at Onigashima, the 2 large ships were already ready. Jack was standing on the deck of one of the big ships. One look at his closed eyes and he was thinking about something, and you could tell he was thinking about some childish quotes again. Black Maria didn't show up, so she must have gone into the cabin. Yamato, Runty and Peggy 1 were waiting for Ikaros on the deck. Okay, let's go. As Ikaros boarded the Quinn Special Warship No. 1, and gave the order to set sail, the flag of the 100 Beasts fluttered in the wind and sailed into the distance. Chapter 41, the user of the flame fruit, used the flame fist on Ikaros. Yo-ho-ho, yo-ha-ho-ho, Binks's whine, known as the pirate song, was sung by the crew on the deck, while the tied hostages could only look at the endless blue sea and lament in their hearts. The burning pirates, Captain Mike Miller possesses the ability of the natural type flame fruit, and his bounty is as high as 100 million berries. You know, the bounty of 100 million at this time is still different from the bounty of 100 million for caribou in the future. It cannot be said that the gold content is very high, but at least it can prove that the person on whom the bounty is offered is quite powerful. Captain, if they don't pay the ransom, what will happen to these people? Miller's face was gloomy. Need I say that? Kill them all and throw them into the sea to feed the fish. However, if we really don't want to pay, we can't let them get away with it. I'm Mike Miller, the fireman, a superstar with a bounty of 100 million. I'm personally asking for the ransom. Did they dare not pay? A ball of orange-red flame ignited on Miller's hand, and the scorching heat forced the younger brothers beside him to retreat repeatedly. Ha ha. The younger brother laughed dryly and boasted, Captain Miller is invincible. Even the famous Ikaros only defeated the blood pirates and escaped from the hands of the vice admiral. The 300 million bounty might have been obtained because he was a member of the Beast's pirates. How could he be as powerful as the captain? Oh, is that so? A voice suddenly sounded from the side. Of course. The younger brother turned his head and patted the other party in dissatisfaction. Are you the new guy? Don't you know how powerful the captain is? Oh, your little brother said you have great strength, can you let me see it? Fireman, Mac Miller. Bah, what a ridiculous name, it makes him sound like a Marvel villain. Ace's name is better than his. Although he was secretly complaining in his heart, it did not affect Ikaros' outward calmness. Who are you? Miller frowned and looked at Ikaros, but flames had already condensed in his hands. This is like the suffocating feeling of a python coiling around you. He was not careful enough and let this man get so close to him. At this moment, Miller was already sweating all over. Ikaros' outfit was very simple, a windbreaker and trousers with a white shirt underneath, but he seemed out of place in the Burning Pirates, where all the members were unrestrained. Didn't you just talk about me? Why, haven't you seen my wanted poster? Ikaros found a place to sit down with great interest. It was really nice to have a name now and suddenly come out to scare people. Quinn's Special Warship No. 1 had not yet arrived. He condensed his flaming wings and flew over first. As soon as he arrived, he heard these people discussing him. At the same time, words were jumping on the panel that only Ikaros could see. The protagonist's halo effect is activated. Increase the chance of extracting an entry. It's a pity that it's not refreshed 3 times. Do you want to start extracting? Timid white, normal become timid, fire resistance purple epic, for a certain period of time, the pure fire energy damage launched by the enemy is invalidated. Fire resistance comes from Mike Miller, and cowardice comes from a tied hostage. Although fire resistance is indeed good, compared to this, he wants flame body to fuse and upgrade the attribute. At this moment, the two entries flame body and fire resistance both flickered, and began to slowly merge together. All the fonts began to distort and blur. Can entries with the same name and effect be merged without the need for them? Ikaros was a little stunned. What were the conditions for the fusion of the terms? If they can be fused like this, then theoretically the iron balloon and undead creature can also be fused together. But in fact, they are independent of each other and have not been integrated. Good opportunity. Seeing that Ikaros was a little distracted, Miller immediately turned into flames and swung a punch at him. Flame fist. Boom. The flames exploded, and even the railing of the ship behind Ikaros was burned to ashes. However, there was a black shadow sitting in the flames, not moving at all. Chaos Hotbed, Purple Epic, immune to all damage from pure fire energy, and gain additional fire abilities. When the flames died down, Ikaros patted the sparks from his collar. Although the newly fused entry made him immune to damage from fire energy, it did not mean that he was immune to the impact it brought, nor did it mean that his clothes would not be burned by other people's flames. Fortunately, Ikaros's clothes were made of special material and would not burn easily. Only some sparks ignited on the collar. How is this possible? You didn't use armament hockey, so why could you block my fire? Miller was extremely shocked. Ikaros stood up and said, Flame Fist, why don't you just shorten it to Fire Fist, or just Flame Fist? Flame your mother, Miller roared, and his entire body turned into flames, his figure constantly rising higher. Fire Giant, it's not a good thing to scold other people's parents, although she shouldn't be afraid of being scolded. Ikaros said as he drew his knife. With the armed color domineering covering the blade, Ikaros simply gave up all defense and attacked to the extreme. The fire giant that Miller transformed into looked intimidating, but in fact he became Ikaros' target. With a stomp of his foot, Ikaros soared into the sky. Water birds dancing. The sword light was like jagged mountain peaks, overlapping and interlacing, dancing, like a bird playing in the water. Ikaros' sword was too fast. Even if Miller used his observation hockey to elementalize it in advance, he could not avoid all of Ikaros' armament hockey. The result was that before his fire giant's punch was even in the middle of its attack, Ikaros had already caused him some real damage. However, Miller finally succeeded in throwing a punch, which was about to pierce through the pirate ship. Boss, this is our ship, Captain. However, the shouts of his younger brothers did not bring Miller back to his senses. At this moment, Ikaros landed on the ground, broke a piece of wood with one foot, flew up again, and slashed with a knife. The huge flaming fist stopped in midair, and then blood spurted out. A few puffs of blood suddenly spurted out from the flames. The scene looked a bit weird, but this is indeed the scene now. Kuzan could also use his armament hockey to wrap his elemental fist, but Miller couldn't do it at all, and his observation hockey couldn't react to Ikaros' attack at all. At this moment, the Den Den Mushi in Ikaros' arms rang. Ika, we were stopped by a lava uncle. Chapter 42 Sakaski. Don't you know that magma is superior to flame? Uncle Magma, Sakaski. Ikaros suddenly crossed his face. Last time he met Kuzan, this time he met Sakaski, next time will it be Borsellino? Is he destined to be with the three admirals? Don't these three guys want to be base leaders to improve their political achievements? Wandering around the world, tisk, you're lucky. The blazing white flames behind Ikaros formed a pair of wings out of thin air, and with a flap of the wings, they disappeared into the distance. Just as Ikaros disappeared on the ship, Miller's entire flaming fist was suddenly split into two halves, and screams finally rang out. Miller immediately exited the state of the fire giant and collapsed on the boat. Quick, where's the ship's doctor? Hurry and save Captain Miller. Boss, the entire burning pirates suddenly became busy again. Among the bound hostages, there was a young man who quietly reached out to a piece of wine bottle that had just been broken in the battle not far away and held it in his hand. No one noticed his little action. On the other side, Ikaros, who was rushing back, saw the Navy's warships and the lava bombs that were about to fall from midair. You play like this at sea. You want KPIs over your life, right? It can be seen that Yamato has transformed into a human beast form, and several ice spears have condensed around him. Even Ikaros had never seen this move before, but it was somewhat similar to Kuzan's two ice spears. On Quinn's special battleship number 1, the pirates used their skills to try to stop the lava bombs falling from the sky. Runty and Page 1 also transformed directly into beast form and worked together to resist. Swoosh, all the ice spears were thrown out with Yamato's movement to meet the lava bombs. "You're a born evil little pirate." On the Navy ship, Sakazuki, who had already leapt into the air, roared and swung his fist that had turned into magma, intending to launch a sneak attack while everyone was resisting his magma bomb. For Sakazuki, there was nothing unacceptable. As long as he could kill the evil pirates, he would use any means. At this moment, a slashing attack came from a distance and approached in an instant. Sakazuki noticed the slashing attack and could only turn around to defend himself and use the lava fist to block the slashing attack. "Ika, you're finally here." Yamato swung his stick to smash a lava fist and looked to the side of Sakazuki. "Brother Ikaros," Peggy 1 shouted with some surprise. The one who launched the flying slash was Ikaros. "Although I have no intention of vindicating pirates," Ikaros paused in midair and said slowly, "but if pirates are born evil, then what are the celestial dragons?" "What do you think, Sakazuki?" Obviously, Sakazuki couldn't be unaware of what the celestial dragons were like. To put it another way, even if Sakazuki has reached the rank of Vice Admiral and still doesn't know about the celestial dragons' game of massacring the indigenous people every 3 years, he should at least know the truth of whether the Navy is playing house with the pirates or is serving as dogs for the celestial dragons, right? However, Sakazuki's mentality is very stable. Unlike Kuzan, he doubted his own justice because of the O'Hara incident. Even in the O'Hara incident, it was Sakazuki who took the initiative to blow up the civilians' refugee boat. Eradicating all evil, even if there will be great sacrifices in the process, is Sakazuki's idea. Being consistent is also one of the qualities that has attracted many fans to Sakazuki. However, the existence of the celestial dragons has always been the reason why Sakazuki was not recognized. Until the celestial dragons massacre game was exposed, Sakazuki became completely barbecue. "Akainu is a dog after all," netizens commented. However, it's not just Akainu Sakazuki. Basically, most of the Navy have become clowns. Even people like Pen cannot avoid being affected. "I have nothing to say to pirates. Charlotte Ikaros, in the name of justice, surrender." "Hell dog, my name is just Ikaros. Remember that, Admiral." Ikaros slashed with his sword, and it turned into a full crescent moon. With a move of the full moon, the Hades dog was blocked, and it seemed as if it was about to suppress it. Sakazuki was surprised, as he had heard from Kuzan that when Ikaros spread his flaming wings, his strength and speed would be much greater, but he still didn't expect that he could even surpass the aspect he was most proud of. The explosive power of magma is no joke. But, HMPH, you evil little pirate, don't you know that magma is superior to fire? Sakazuki retracted his lava fist and turned into magma. "Then do you know that fire can also burn away magma?" Ikaros lightly flapped his wings, and the temperatureless white flames seemed to become even wider. White flames suddenly ignited on the blade, but it looked like it was covered with white snow. Dog bites Red Lotus. A lava dog head pounced towards Ikaros, biting him, but was blocked by the tip of Ikaros's knife. In Sakazuki's observation hockey, one can see the thick, shiny black armament hockey on the blade. "You don't even want to defend yourself. You evil little pirate, this is where you will die today." "Snow wind." Ikaros uttered these 2 words softly, and the white flame on the blade fell like snowflakes. Then came a change of tactics. Before eating the magma fruit, Sakazuki was also a swordsman, but the strength of the magma fruit gradually made him stop practicing swordsmanship. It was not until then that he discovered the exquisiteness of Ikaros' sword moves. Secret. Chaotic snow, moon and flowers. The flowing secrets composed of the 3 sword moves of butterfly dancing among flowers, full moon and snow wind, integrate Ikaros' strongest power. "How is this possible?" Sakazuki said in shock and anger. At most, he was almost equal to Kuzan. This was Sakazuki's previous impression, and Kuzan was his junior. But now, Ikaros was able to deliver such a powerful blow that he even felt threatened. How could his justice be defeated by a little pirate? Boom! Sakazuki slammed heavily onto the deck of the naval ship, and his magma body had already shrunk back into human form in midair due to loss of strength. As for Ikaros, after holding on for a while, his wings disappeared and he fell straight down, and was caught by Yamato in a princess carry. He was sure that Sakazuki was seriously injured by his strongest blow and would not be able to recover for a month or so, but he himself had completely lost his fighting ability. He was too badly squeezed by this blow. Although there was nothing wrong with his body, he also needed a short time to recover his strength. As for the user of the flame fruit, if it weren't for me, perhaps he would have been the lucky one who died at the hands of Sakazuki. As a result, the flame fruit was reborn on the sea, waiting for the next successor. Chapter 43, A Day with Ship King Jack. Huh? Who do you think I am? Bring the boat over. Jack glared at the pirates below and they immediately took action. At this moment, he is chasing a pirate group called the Jet Pirates, whose Captain Wallace ate the animal-type guinea fowl fruit and has a bounty of 80 million. Jack has always been a little angry because he only has a bounty of 70 million. In his opinion, without a bounty of 100 million as a foundation, how can he keep up with Boss Kaido? He is the man who will become the big boss of all beasts in the third disaster in the future. And the task that Boss Kaido has given to me is the time to prove my worth. These pirate groups will all be helpers to Boss Kaido in the future. He wants to let these later pirates realize who is the one who can stand by Boss Kaido's side. Soon, the warship that had been specially modified by Quinn caught up with the Jet Pirates. The pirates also moved the warship directly over as requested by Jack and officially started the boarding battle. How ridiculous. The other Captain Wallace was furious. Can the Beast's pirates do whatever they want? When Wallace said this, even Jack couldn't help but look at Black Maria and spread his hands. Who do you think we are? The Beasts can do whatever they want. Boss Kaido said that in this sea, being weak is the original sin. Either surrender or die. Damn it, don't underestimate me. I'm Jet Warrior Wallace, with a bounty of 80 million berries. Wallace roared and immediately transformed into a human beast form. Wallace's orange-yellow coxcomb hairstyle was seen to be gathered into a tuft, curving backwards, his lips protruding forward to form a short beak, spotted black feathers growing on his body, his arms turning into wings, and his legs turning into black chicken claws. Pheasant feather spray. Wallace's body trembled, and all the black feathers on his body stood up. Then he shook slightly and shot towards Jack. Jack glared and stomped his feet hard, and in an instant he transformed into a human beast form, just like Black Maria, with half a human body on top of half an elephant's body, while also showing the characteristics of a mammoth, with a sickle in each hand. Facing Wallace's moves, Jack didn't even use armament hockey, but relied on his own body to resist. What? How is this possible? Wallace widened his eyes and looked at Jack in disbelief. Not to mention causing any damage, this move didn't even make Jack bleed, all the damage was stuck in Jack's thick fur. You bastard, drink it. Although no harm was caused, Jack was not immune to pain and felt the pain as well. With a wave of his hands, two scimitars slashed towards Wallace fiercely. Oh, when I was making a name for myself on the sea, you, a little brat, were still nursing me. How could you have a bounty of 70 million? Wallace roared, flapped his wings, and leapt into the air. Circular wave slash. Wallace kicked with his chicken claws, and 3 streams of energy flew through the air and headed straight for Jack's long trunk, followed by Wallace's chicken claws. Do you need my help, Jack? Black Maria asked. No need. Who do you think I am? Jack raised his 2 sickles without turning his head, stepped on all 4 of his legs, and his muscles flexed. Get out of my way. Jack blocked the 3 energy forces with his armed hockey, and then swung his sickle with both arms to collide with Wallace's chicken claws. At the same time, Black Maria was not idle either. She also transformed into a human beast form, picked up her spider legs and rushed into the group of pirates to kill them all. She laughed wildly while fighting. Wherever she passed, the pirates fell under her poison and looked very crazy. Damn woman, look what you have done. The vice captain of the Jet Pirates suddenly appeared, raised his hand and blocked the spider leg that Black Maria was smashing down with a knife. Behind Black Maria, one green man after another was lying on the deck. As he spoke, the second captain looked at Wallace. He had no way of stopping Black Maria, so he could only see if Wallace could defeat Jack and come to support him. However, this sight gave Black Maria an opportunity. She sprayed out spider webs from her 10 fingers and wrapped around the deputy captain. As for the remaining pirates, they were basically just small fry against small fry, as if they had agreed in advance. You hit me, I hit you, and we exchanged our integrity. Jack roared like an elephant, and relying on the thick skin and flesh of the mammoth fruit and the natural powerful strength of a fishman, he finally defeated Wallace and chopped him away. Captain! The pirates couldn't help but shout as they watched Wallace being chopped away. However, Wallace adjusted his body in midair, spread his wings, and began to glide farther along the sea breeze. Ha 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 ha, you didn't expect this, this is my escape route. Wallace laughed proudly. Everything just now was just an act, just for the sake of escaping right now. Humph, so what if they are from the beast's pirates? To survive in this ocean, you need your brains. Ha 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 ha, just stand there in impotence and rage, I'm leaving. Before he could finish his words, Wallace collided head-on with a large ship and slowly slid down. Let me stop the expansion of the beast's pirates. It's so scary, a somewhat mean voice sounded. A tall man was wearing a dark green shirt, a gray-blue suit, a coat of justice, and a round hat on his head. Hearing this voice, Wallace trembled all over and turned his head. You are the Vice Admiral of the Navy, Kizaru. Oh, did you recognize me? That's scary. Vice Admiral Borsellino, codenamed Kizaru, put his hands in his pockets, a cigarette in his mouth, and said these words with a pout. The beast's pirates have been a little too active lately. What are they doing? Borsellino looked at the two pirate ships not far away. Are they the ships of the beast's pirates rookies Jack and Black Maria? It seems that Sakazuki encountered Silver Wing, Ikaros and Demon Princess, Yamato. Well, I hope everything goes well for him. Hey, in front of the light, you still want to run? Borsellino glanced at Wallace, who was flapping his wings and trying to escape, raised his hand and extended a finger. Now, have you ever been hit by light? As soon as he finished speaking, a laser shot out from Borsellino's fingertips and pierced Wallace's shoulder. The soldiers nearby immediately went over and handcuffed Wallace with seastone handcuffs and took him to the temporary prison in the cabin. Lieutenant General Borsellino, do we want to approach and engage in boarding? Borsellino glanced at the soldier who was asking the question and pouted. I'll just go over there. Chapter 44. The beasts failed. Jack was captured. Have you ever been kicked by light speed? When Jack reacted, the Navy man with a slightly wretched appearance and monkey-like figure had already raised his legs high, with his toes flashing a dazzling light. Huh, who are you? Jack's eyes were wide open, and he swung his two scimitars at Borsellino madly. After realizing that ordinary attacks were completely ineffective against Borsellino, Jack immediately added some armament hockey. Although it was not much, it was enough to use. Oh, have you learned armament hockey? That's really scary. Kizaru pouted and actively transformed into an element to avoid Jack's armament hockey attack. Then the long leg that had been raised high finally kicked down, and with just one kick, Jack's huge body was kicked away and fell into the sea. Jack is so powerful, the pirates exclaimed. Black Maria on the side also reacted quickly and immediately stepped back. However, it was of no use. In the face of the speed of light, everything you do is in vain. Kizaru stretched out a finger and waved it, and a strong flash of light suddenly burst out from his body. Then, Kizaru flew into the air, crossed his arms, and pinched his index finger and thumb together. Yashikani no Magatama. Countless dazzling light bullets instantly burst out from Kizaru's side and shot towards the two pirate ships below. Ah! The pirates who were hit screamed. Obviously, the 8-foot outline Jade had no outline at all this time, and almost every pirate was attacked by one or even several light bullets. Forbidden Maria. Black Maria swung her 10 fingers, and spider webs crisscrossed one after another, trying to block the light bullets coming from Kizaru. However, there were too many light bullets fired by Kizaru, and Black Maria's defensive spider web had no time to defend against all the light bullets and was completely broken. After using the Yasukani no Magatama, both pirate ships were in tatters, and there was not a single pirate left standing. The warship came over quickly, but the Marines felt nothing when they saw the big harvest before their eyes. They are numb. Every time they follow Kizaru out to wipe out pirates, they feel the most relaxed. After all, there is nothing that can't be solved by one move of Yasukani no Magatama. If there is, just add a light speed kick. Although Borsellino seems to be a bit lazy and cunning, he is actually a model worker. He carries out the orders given by his superiors basically without any reservation. It can be said that he has completed more tasks than Sakazuki, and even better. After all, every time Sakazuki went on a mission, he either killed all the enemies without leaving any alive, or killed many of them with missing limbs. Even the director of the underwater prison, Impelton, had to beg him to just kill them all so as to save the prison space in Impel Down. As for Kuzan, the justice that once burned turned into lazy justice after it was extinguished. He became really lazy, as if he had entered the retirement life in advance. His daily hobby was to ride his beloved little bicycle and skate around on the sea. Vice Admiral Borsellino, Jack has been rescued. A Marine reported. Oh, so it's a fishman. How scary. Kizaru pouted and waved his hand. Then, let's return to the headquarters. As he spoke, Kizaru took out a black Den Den Mushi from his arms, Mashimoshi. Sengoku Daisho, why is there no sound? Lieutenant General Borsellino, you used the wrong Den Den Mushi. The adjutant quickly handed the real Den Den Mushi to Kizaru and took the black Den Den Mushi away. Den Den Mushi quickly imitated an image with an afro, a braided beard, and frog glasses. Borsellino, what's the matter? General Sengoku. Kizaru spoke slowly, so slowly that Sengoku on the other end of the Den Den Mushi wished he could stick his head out of the Den Den Mushi. It's like this, Admiral Sengoku, we have captured the Beast's pirates rookies Jack and Black Maria, as well as the jet pirates who were fighting with them, the adjutant reported. Well, there is finally good news. Sengoku on the other end of the Den Den Mushi breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, General Sengoku, did Sakazuki suffer a defeat? Kizaru asked. Hearing Kizaru's question, Sengoku sighed and said, just before you, I got the news from Sakazuki. They fought with Silver Wing, Ikaros and Demon Princess, Yamato. Both sides were defeated and had to leave. Both sides will suffer. It's really scary that someone like Sakazuki could be hurt. Sengoku was obviously used to Kizaru's catchphrases, so he ignored them and warned, well, come back to the headquarters as soon as possible, Borsellino. The capture of Jack and Black Maria this time is enough to deal a blow to the arrogance of the Beast's pirates. As for Silver Wing, Ikaros and Demon Princess, Yamato, give up on them for now. I will report to Marshal Kong and ask him to send a warship to pick you up. After hanging up the phone, Sengoku, who was at the Marine headquarters in Marineford, took a deep breath. The Beast's pirates expansion has been going on for some time, and now they have finally found the opportunity to defeat them one by one. Next, no matter whether Kaido chooses to break into the prison and rescue Jack and Black Maria, or chooses to abandon them, the Navy holds the initiative. Of course, given Kaido's past performance, the Navy must take time this time to come up with more complete attack and defense tactics. At the same time, because Sakazuki underestimated the enemy and was seriously injured, he also needed time to recover. Of course, the most important thing is that this matter needs the support of Admiral Kong, and Kong's support depends on the attitude of the world government. Ghost Island. Kaido drank can after can of wine with a flushed face. You said that Jack was captured by the Navy. Jin nodded. Yeah, and Black Maria. Where are the other little devils? They are returning. Kaido burped and suddenly became excited. Hee, what do you say? Let's go and have a big fight, how about that? That old fellow, Golden Lion, once overturned half of Marineford. I'm not any worse than him. Mr. Kaido, you are drunk. Jin said calmly. No, I'm not drunk. Kaido's eyes lit up, as if he had thought of something. Those guys in the Navy must be ready to kill me. Jin held his forehead and looked up at the sky, not knowing what to say. At least let's listen to what Ikaros has to say. He has a lot of ideas, so I think he should have some ideas. What ideas can I have? Kong slammed the table hard. You were the one who brought this up. Aren't you known as the wise general of the Warring States period? Find a way yourself. Hey, Marshal. Sengoku quickly tried to comfort Kong. Well, you only need to report to the 5 elders, and I will be in charge of the expedition against the Beast's pirates. How do you think? Chapter 45 Saving Private Jack Holy Land, Marihoa. The 5 elder stars gathered in the Hall of Power again. What do you think? Topman Wachuli, who had a birthmark on his forehead and a big mustache, asked first. This is an opportunity, the curly-haired Sardan said. According to the intelligence of the CP department, Ikaros is suspected to have the talent of Steel Balloon. We once lost the opportunity to study Charlotte Lingling, but this time perhaps we can try to catch Ikaros and analyze his secrets. Not appropriate. Shepherd 10 Peter, a blonde 5 elder star with a golden beard, raised an objection. Have you forgotten what kind of bastard Kaido is? Marcus Moshe, who had long straight hair and a long beard, also rarely agreed with Peter's opinion. Indeed, we just want to curb the arrogance of the Beast's pirates and let them know who is in charge on this sea. And capturing Ikaros would bring unnecessary surprises. Besides, we don't have much time. If we are not well prepared this time and he escapes, it will be difficult to catch him in the future. Seeing that several of the 5 elders were about to quarrel, the bald 5 elder Azambran v. Nasujiro, who had been silent, slammed his scabbard on the floor and said, the situation on the sea is very turbulent now. Since Roger opened the Great Pirate Era, countless pirates have appeared on the sea. Since we have stabilized the first half of the Grand Line with the Shichibukai system, why not leave the second half to these great pirates and let them kill each other? This operation must not only be carried out, but also be fought beautifully, so that those big pirates can see the majesty of the world government. First, we must demonstrate the government's authority, and then hand over the new world to those great pirates and let them consume it on their own. Only in this way can we balance the sea and maintain stability. Hearing what Nasujiro said, Satan's frown relaxed. If they can help us balance the power on the sea, then it would be fine to give the new world to them. However, regarding Ikaros, this must not be our main goal. Nasu Sholang said, I know you want to study him, but now is not the time. Our primary goal is to maintain the stability of the ocean. If there is a chance to catch him back, then try to catch him. If that is not possible, do not waste your energy on him. Then let's call that guy Garp back. Peter said, he ran to the East China Sea for no reason. People who don't know him would think he is not a navy. Well, notify the Navy headquarters and start full combat mode. If the Beast's pirates dare to come, we will give them a head-on blow. Also, inform Morgans that if the Beast's pirates don't come, publicize this matter. However, in Wano country, it doesn't matter. Kaido still needs money no matter what. The deal over there will be cancelled for now. We'll see when the time comes. The world situation was decided during the conversation between a few people. On Ghost Island, Ikaros, who had just returned, heard the news that Jack was captured by the Navy. His first reaction was that Jack was the shipping king again. However, after he heard that Jack was defeated by Kizaru Borsalino, he quickly figured things out. He met Sakazuki and Jack met Borsalino. It was obvious that the Navy had begun to crack down on the Beast's pirates' expansion of power, otherwise they would not have dispatched the Navy's two most proud vice-admirals in succession. The Whitebeard pirates are playing house in their own territory, the Big Mom pirates are also playing house in Wano country, and only your Beast's pirates are expanding their manpower in a big way. In the eyes of the Navy, you are as dazzling as a 1000-watt light bulb, but why is the Navy so impatient? Isn't the New World the territory for the big pirates like Mr. Guy, or is it that the world government is behind this? Business is business, you still have to do what you are supposed to do, right? But, why does this scene always feel familiar? The Beast's version of Mariner 2. Teacher K. Jack, am I qualified to be your teacher? Jack. Of course, no, the picture was too beautiful to be imagined, and Ikaros almost couldn't hold it back. Besides, Teacher Kai is not that kind of person, and the Beast's version of the Summit War may not necessarily break out. There are too many things to consider for this kind of thing. Unlike Whitebeard's time, the Navy did not have enough time to prepare, and even had time to persuade the giant spider squad to rebel. Let's see what Teacher Kai says. No matter what, it will be Teacher Kai who makes the final decision. However, just after entering, Ikaros heard Teacher Kai talking about causing trouble in the Navy. Oh, Ikaros is here. Jin looked at Ikaros and motioned him to come forward. You have received the news that Jack was captured by the Navy, said Jin. Ikaros nodded and asked, do you want to go directly to Marineford to break out of the prison? Prison break? I'm going to turn Marineford upside down. Kaido laughed, I wonder if those Navy bastards are ready to kill me. Ikaros and Jin looked at each other and both saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. So, Ikaros, do you have any ideas? We can't let Mr. Kaido be imprisoned, Jin said helplessly. Kaido is not afraid of death, so even if he is caught by the Navy, it's no big deal. Is the number of times he has been caught considered small? But the problem is that the Beast's pirates are now expanding, and Kaido, as the leader of the group, must not be captured by the Navy. Even though everyone knows that Kaido cannot be killed by a knife or an axe, morale will always drop, but Jack and Black Maria had to be saved. Ah, me. Ikaros pointed at himself and asked his soul again. He is obviously just an ordinary person, and he just gave some opinions based on his different experiences in the pirate world. How come he is about to become the external brain of the Beast's pirates? Besides, although Teacher Kai looks like a reckless man, he is actually a smart man with a lot of tricks up his sleeve. Could it be that he really has no ideas at all? Seeing that both Teacher Kai and Jin were looking at him, Ikaros could only start to think. Whether to rescue or not is secondary, but at least we have to go, so we must grasp the movements of the Navy. How can we master it? Ikaros cannot praise Mr. Kai's intelligence organization. However, when he thought about keeping track of the Navy's movements, Ikaros suddenly thought of someone. Let's talk to the world government first. However, the Navy will not give up easily after making such a big move, so the world government may refuse to talk. But no matter what, we must make our position known first. Also, you can try to contact the Big Mom Pirates. Chapter 46 The Final Promise, Contact Ling Ling. Kaido leaned over. Why should I contact her? To create momentum, we just need to ask them to do so. The condition is the share of the seastone and weapons trade. Also, maybe we can find someone to talk to about the Navy's movements. Who? Jin asked. Doflamingo. Joker. Jin was a little confused. He naturally knew Doflamingo. Ever since the incident with the Blood Pirates, Doflamingo, who was in the North Sea, found Kaido through his connections and even went to Onigashima to meet Kaido in person, hoping to reach a cooperation with Kaido and sell weapons to the outside world. Unfortunately, Kaido was drunk at the time, and Doflamingo was hit by the Thunder Bagua teaching stick as expected before he could talk to Kaido. Putting aside the subsequent cooperation matters, Doflamingo's goal has been achieved and the Beast's pirates can make more money, but no matter what, Doflamingo is not a big shot in Kaido's mind. Even this partner cannot compare to the status of Ikaros, the traitor of all beasts, in Kaido's heart. But now, Ikaros said that he could go find Doflamingo. Seeing Jin's expression, Ikaros knew what he was thinking, so he said, as the saying goes, snakes have their ways and rats have their ways. For someone like Doflamingo to make a name for himself in the dark world of the underground, there must be a reason for that. Don Quixote, you should know what this surname means. Jin nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, as a former celestial dragon, Doflamingo might indeed have some secret channels. Of course, this was also the result of Ikaros' deliberate misleading. Virgo was not in Doflamingo's team at this time, which meant that Virgo had been sent by Doflamingo to be an undercover agent in the Navy. However, he couldn't tell them the top secret information that Doflamingo was an undercover agent in the Navy, so he could only let Uncle Jin and Teacher Guy imagine it themselves through Doflamingo's identity. So what's next? Jin continued to ask. What's next? Ikaros spread his hands. The next step is to see what the Navy does. In the end, it will all come down to a battle of hard power. Regarding this, I believe that Mr. Kai will definitely not let the Navy down, right? It's very difficult for me to do anything you ask me to do. The most I can do is to think about how to get Jack and Black Maria out. That's right. Jin glanced at Ikaros and said leisurely, after all, the other side also has people like the wise General Zongguo. You, a young boy, really can't compare with him. Ikaros. So, how can we build momentum for the Big Mom Pirates? It's simple. Announce a joint effort and then make a false move to confuse the Navy and the world government. Until they approach the bottom line of the world government, they will not care about anything else and only seek stability on the sea. As for the Navy, no matter what they think, they cannot disobey the orders of the world government. The alliance between the two sea emperors is enough to make the world government reconsider whether it is necessary to do so. They may wonder whether this alliance is just a show, but they dare not gamble. In fact, the world government is not without a way to deal with the combination of the two great pirates, but the problem is that although they can break up the territories of the two great pirates, when the pirates roam the sea again, they will taste the bitter fruit. As Ikaros said before, the balance and stability on the ocean is the biggest weakness of the world government before its bottom line is breached. So, Ling Ling, that guy only needs to announce the alliance on the sea, and then he can take my share of the transaction unscathed. Kaido snorted and asked coldly, you can't catch a wolf without sacrificing a child. Doing this also carries the risk of completely confronting the Navy, so they naturally won't be willing to do it. This step is just to make the world government hesitate to act rashly. Before it's actually done, I don't know what the effect will be. Ikaros spread his hands. The best I can do is give some advice. What's the next plan? Jin motioned for Ikaros to continue. Plan? What kind of plan do we need? Ikaros asked in surprise. Now we can only get information from Doflamingo and then decide what to do next. Anyway, no matter how the world government reacts, we have to catch the Navy off guard and bring Jack and Black Maria out first. As for what happens next, Mr. Kai, you can do whatever you want. Just be careful not to be too exhausted to come back. Anyway, there are not many people in the Navy who can fly, and people like Kizaru can't keep Teacher Guy at all. As long as Teacher Guy doesn't commit suicide again, how can he be kept? To be honest, With Teacher Kai's current characteristics of being a tough guy who can carry, fight and run, Ikaros felt that if it weren't for Marshal Steelbone Kong, Sengoku Zephyr and others joining forces to suppress Teacher Kai from the beginning, they would probably not be able to stop Teacher Kai from running away. Marine, I'm afraid you misjudged Mr. Kai's current strength and still think he is the same as before. Then, go call Doflamingo. Given Doflamingo's status, it was indeed not worthy for Guy or King to talk to him, but Ikaros did not refuse and agreed. But then he looked at Kaido again and said seriously, Teacher Kai, after this time, it will be the last time I challenge you. For the last time, Kaido thought for a moment, then came to his senses. Hehe, do you want to borrow the power of the Navy? Ikaros did not try to hide it and admitted directly, yes, after that, I will not help you anymore. So, you, and Yamato's stupid daughter, are ready to die. Kaido sat on a high seat. Under the light, his huge shadow covered half of the room. This seemed to be the first time that Teacher Kai said in person that Yamato was a daughter, not a son. I have been preparing since the first day we met. Ikaros said calmly. My answer then is the same as my answer now. Yamato, me too. Yamato suddenly jumped out from somewhere and stood side by side with Ikaros. Yamato, why are you here? Ika, Yamato said unhappily, we agreed to go to sea together. Are you going to abandon me? And you came here quietly without telling me. Ikaros smiled awkwardly, admitted his mistake, and said, then let us face it together. Okay. Kaido gulped down the wine in the can, and said heroically, then, after the final battle, little devils, be prepared to die. Chapter 47. Stormy, hey, Silver Wing Ikaros. I'm sure your purpose for calling me is not simple, right? On the other end of the Den Den Mushi, Doflamingo's signature laugh rang out. Enough of the small talk, Joker. You should have some information channel with the Navy. Ikaros directly called Doflamingo by his code name in the underground world, which made Doflamingo tense. Are you representing the Beast's pirates? So, what do you want to know? Hehehehe. The exact location of Jack and Black Maria, the movements of the Navy, and so on, can be reported to us at any time. Almost instantly, there was silence over there. Then Doflamingo's voice was slightly emotional. It seems that you have a lot of information. However, it will cost me a lot to find out this information for the Beast's pirates. The friendship of the Beast's pirates and a chance to escape. Ikaros gave the conditions in a concise manner. Hey. Doflamingo just smiled and calculated the value in his mind, then said, I want to add a condition. Do you still dare to negotiate conditions? Hey, Ikaros, do I have the honor to make you owe me a favor? Huh, Ikaros was stunned by what Doflamingo said. Is he okay? Even for his so-called potential, he would not let Doflamingo directly say that he needed a favor from him. Who is Doflamingo? He may have a psychological trauma towards Teacher Kai, and may feel that his strength and status are enough to be on par with him, but he would never say that he needs a favor from his teacher. Kaido is one of the most powerful pirates on the sea today, and he holds the lifeline of his trade. It is normal for him to need favors from the Beast's pirates or Kaido, but what does he have? Hey, more friends, more paths. I always think this sentence is very good. What do you think, Ikaros? Ikaros was too lazy to appreciate this excuse and said casually, if you think it's useful, then it's fine. However, this condition has nothing to do with the Beast's pirates, so I also have an additional condition. What conditions? I haven't thought about it yet. I'll talk to you when I think about it. After saying that, Ikaros hung up the Den Den Mushi directly, not giving Doflamingo any time to react. Doflamingo. After hanging up the phone, Ikaros began to think about what conditions he should ask for from Doflamingo. There was no doubt that this deal had already been considered as a break from the Beast's pirates, and he was also put on an equal footing. Whatever he needs Doflamingo to do, he needs to give Doflamingo something in return. Marine Headquarters, Marineford. The storm is coming. I hope we can execute the plan smoothly this time. Although the bounties of Jack and Black Maria are not very high, they are an effective trigger to stop the expansion of the Beast's pirates. What's more, according to the intelligence of the CP department, these two people are obviously being trained as future cadres. Whether Kaido comes or not, the Navy has a set of statements to publicize. At the same time, the real purpose of Sengoku in pushing this action is not entirely aimed at Kaido. Kachakacha. Hey, Sengoku, Kachakacha, do you want to repeat what happened to Golden Lion again? A voice came from behind Zhang Guo, accompanied by a crisp clicking sound. Garp, what on earth are you doing in the East China Sea, you old bastard? Do you know that I'm the only one doing anything in the entire Marine headquarters right now? Wait, you old bastard, you stole my senbei again. Sengoku attacked suddenly and wrestled with Garp on the spot. In the end, Garp grabbed Sengoku's twisted beard, and Sengoku pulled Garp's hair. Neither of them was willing to let go. They looked more like street thugs than Navy men. I'll count to 3 and then we'll all let go. Zhang Guo said, gritting his teeth. Okay, whoever doesn't let go is a bastard. Garp also roared. 3, 2, 1. Old bastard, why don't you let go? You old bastard, why don't you let go first? Ahem. Another voice broke the fight between the two men. In just a moment, the two men stood aside, as if nothing had happened. It's Ahe, ahahaha, don't you have to chase Doflamingo anymore? Garp laughed. He glanced at Zhang Guo, who pretended not to see him, and said sarcastically, yes, someone insisted on causing trouble. I was afraid that Marineford would be destroyed again, so I had to come back. You can't say that. Zhang Guo finally couldn't help it and said, the battlefield this time is not in Marineford. I plan to set the battlefield on a deserted island, then spread false news about the escort of the Beast's Pirates members, and ambush on that deserted island in advance. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Crane nodded, that's a good idea, but how are you going to catch Kaido? Who said I want to capture Kaido? Sengoku smiled proudly, I have my own plans. Sengoku, snap, snap, it's your fault for being the Riddler. Garp shook his head, you old bastard, you're still stealing my senbei. He looked at the two of them helplessly. He could only let them play around here, but he felt a little worried in his heart. She always felt that Zhang Guo's plan was a little too simple. Of course, the more complicated the plan, the more likely it is to have mistakes, but if the plan is too simple, it is also easy to make mistakes. I hope there won't be any problems. This time, we finally have the support of the world government, so we can deal a heavy blow to these pirates who are acting recklessly in the new world. If it had been in the past, they would have been beaten back by the 5 elders with words like, maintaining the stability of the ocean, and, balancing the power of the ocean. But he always subconsciously felt that he seemed to have missed some key information. Cake Island. Kaido, it's been a while since we last met. One of the 3 most powerful pirates today, Big Mom, Charlotte Linlin, looked at the Den Den Mushi in front of her that had Kaido's facial features. Hehe, it's been a long time since we last met, Linlin. Den Den Mushi imitated Kaido's expression vividly. Well, Kaido, you've been tricked by the Navy. Big Mom said sarcastically, why, do you want me to help you? If you are willing to bring the Beast's pirates to join the Bankoku, I can help you. Den Den Mushi's face darkened, and he said, Ling Ling, there's no need to waste time talking nonsense. I just want to ask you a question. The two of them spoke without any reservation. Perospero and Katakuri, who were standing below, listened to the whole thing and looked at each other. Although the conditions Kaido offered were not ideal, if he just needed the Big Mom pirates to help him, then it would undoubtedly be a pure profit. Chapter 48 All beasts, move out. The question is, would someone like Kaido actually give up his interests? Can the 2 people captured by the Navy really occupy such an important position in Kaido's heart? Although they had not had much contact with Kaido, they felt that Kaido's behavior at this time was still a bit weird, and a bit, not like Kaido. Ma. The old lady asked the last question while eating cake and smacking her lips. Kaido, Ikaros, is he with you? The cooperation had just been reached, and Kaido did not deliberately provoke Big Mom, and said casually, yes, it's right here. However, to Kaido's surprise, Big Mom did not cause any trouble. She just asked this question and nothing else happened. What's going on? This is not like an old lady's temperament. Perospero also looked a little surprised, but didn't say much. On the contrary, Katakuri didn't react at all, as if he had expected it. In short, time just slipped away quietly. After the Big Mom pirates announced their alliance with the Beast's pirates, the 5 elders held another meeting in the Hall of Power as expected. All I can say is that the Big Mom pirates would actually announce an alliance with the Beast's pirates, which was something the 5 elders had not expected. They thought that the Beast's pirates might airdrop directly into Marineford and snatch people directly from the headquarters, or they might monitor the movements of the Navy and wait for the Navy to go to impel down before taking action. but they never thought that the Big Mom pirates, who were playing house in the world, would suddenly intervene. With the current strength of the Navy headquarters, facing two big pirates at the same time will not end well. The balance of the sea has indeed been broken. The New World cannot be easily interfered with. Only by letting these pirates consume themselves can the balance of the sea be maintained. The 5 elder stars all spoke one after another, but they were all wise after the event. Well, the matter has been settled. Even if we try to save the situation now, the Navy will not agree. Although the Navy is the dog of the world government, sometimes dogs cannot be walked casually. What's more, the person who proposed the proposal this time was Sengoku, their most favored candidate for the next marshal. To some extent, there is no alternative. Among the most powerful people in the headquarters of the Navy today, Zephyr has switched to become an instructor, Garp refused to be promoted to admiral, and has a very bad attitude towards the celestial dragons. Finally, only the Warring States period remained. It can only be said that Sengoku's loyalty to the world government is worthy of recognition from the 5 elders, and this is exactly the kind of loyalty that the 5 elders need most. So it's a rare opportunity for Sengoku to show off, and they don't want Sengoku to become like Zephyr and Garp. What should we do then? What if Kaido and Charlotte Linlin go out together? Who can stop them? Why should we stop them? The blonde 5 elders star Peter smiled calmly. We didn't intend to stop them, did we? After hearing what Pete said, the other 4 or 5 elders quickly understood Pete's idea. This is just a matter of turning a big victory into a small victory. The Beast's pirates and the Big Mom pirates are not as naive as Whitebeard. It is impossible for them to mobilize the entire group just for one crew member like Whitebeard did. As long as the entire regiment is not dispatched, the Navy will never be afraid. Moreover, Big Mom may not necessarily show up on her own initiative. After all, the Beast's pirates were forced to go out or retreat into their shells due to an open conspiracy, but the Big Mom pirates have no reason to oppose the Navy. At most, they will send out a few cadres to help. The more the 5 elders thought about it, the more open-minded they became, just like an old general with flags flying all over the place, laughing loudly and saying that the advantage was in my hands. As long as we lower our expectations at the beginning, who says we won't win by a large margin in the end? Ghost Island. The Navy will be divided into 2 teams. One team will be led by Admiral Sengoku and Vice Admiral Garp. They will disguise themselves as an escort team and set up an ambush on a deserted seafood island close to the route to Impel Down. The other team will be led by Vice Admiral Suru, with the real escort team, and will take Jack and Black Maria straight to Impel Down. Ikaro said the news he got from Doflamingo, Sengoku and Garp will definitely need you, Mr. Guy and Uncle Jin, to deal with them. As for the actual escort team, Yamato and I will handle it. Is that okay? Since we are close to the doldrums, all of our ships must be modified by Quinn to avoid attracting those super large sea kings that may affect the battle. Hey, little brat, respect for me. The fat Quinn glared at Ikaros with a pair of small eyes that were disproportionate to his body. A huge green dragon that was a kilometer long appeared on the Ghost Island. Even though this is not the first time he has seen it, Ikaros still feels that this form of Teacher Kai is really something he never gets tired of watching, and he is very handsome. In this operation, Teacher Kai was the porter, specializing in using Flame Cloud to transport all their pirate ships over. In fact, Ikaros also doubted whether the Navy's plan was really that simple. This plan, which seemed like playing house, seemed to be certain that the Beast's pirates would break in without knowing the truth. However, even Doflamingo could not get any more information. No matter what the Navy planned, the Beast's pirates had to take action. It just so happens that this time, the opportunity to draw entries has been refreshed again, so let's take advantage of this war to find a chance to refresh Teacher Kai's battlefield. Both Sengoku and Garp are very powerful, and there are probably quite a few vice admirals present, so the probability of obtaining low-level and useless entries will be greatly reduced. Of course, there is a difficulty here. That is the problem of the range of entry extraction, which means that if Ikaros wants to draw the entries possessed by Sengoku or Garp, he has to get close to their battlefield. No matter what, let's talk about it when the time comes. The flames surged, lifting several large ships up into the air. Kaido, who had transformed into a blue dragon, was hovering beside several large ships, causing the pirates to cheer and compliment him. On one of the large ships, Yamato looked at Kaido's blue dragon body and suddenly had an idea. Ika, do you think I can become this big? Ikaros thought about it. He had never seen how big Yamatoman was at its largest form. However, in his memory, there are very few people who possess the ability of the mythical beast fruit and are as huge in size as Teacher Kai. At most, you can add an artificial blue dragon fruit. I haven't eaten the mythical beast fruit either, so I don't have any feeling of it. But if you want, it should be able to become bigger, right? Ikaros said thoughtfully. Yeah, I must try it when I have time. Yamato said expectantly. At this time, Kaido's long blue dragon body finally moved, carrying several large ships dragged by the flame cloud through the clouds and flew forward. The beast's pirates, move out. Chapter 49 Warring States. The advantage is on my side, I will win. In fact, it was not easy for Doflamingo to get information from the Navy. Virgo had only been lurking for a short time and had not yet really come into contact with the core layer of the Navy, and Sengoku had deliberately put the most core plan off until the last day before giving the order. Although the entire plan still looks a bit simple is effective. In addition, the fact that Zhongguo deliberately launched the entire plan on the last day also increases its credibility. Not only the world government is watching this battle, but the pirates are also paying attention. Will the beast's pirates allow their newcomers to be taken directly into Impel Down? Who will be the winner in the end of this war between the beasts and the Navy? These are what everyone is looking forward to. In the Chibaoti archipelago, in a tavern called Shaki's Rip-Off Bar. A white-haired old man was sitting at the bar, sipping a glass of wine. He said in amazement, if it was Whitebeard, I would understand it a little bit, but can Kaido really fight the Navy over this? The hostess of the tavern, Shachi, took away the bottle of wine that the old man had not finished drinking and continued, what does it matter if we can fight? What does it matter if we can't fight? Kaido is different now, Rayleigh. You are right. Rayleigh nodded and said, I, old man, really can't see through the beast's pirates. And that kid called Ikaros, his first bounty was 300 million berries, even if it was because of the flag of the beast's pirates, it was still exaggerated. I wonder what happened to Shanks. Rayleigh suddenly thought of Shanks and sighed, the new era that Roger opened up. Shachi was obviously used to Rayleigh's way of starting a new topic with just a few words, so she didn't respond and let Rayleigh think on his own. Moby Dick. The man with white beard and golden sword sat on his exclusive throne on the deck, surrounded by his sons. At this moment, a blond man with a pineapple-like hairstyle was reading a newspaper and said, this time the rookie of the beast's pirates was captured by the Navy. Will Kaido really go to rescue them? Gulala. Whitebeard laughed his signature laugh, Kaido, that brat, may be powerful, but he lacks courage. Marco knew what Whitebeard meant by courage, and he also laughed, that's right, no matter how powerful Kaido is, his courage will never be as good as Daddy's. After all, Daddy is the most powerful man and the most gentle father in the world. The other sons also laughed. In the eyes of all of them, perhaps Kaido would rescue the two newcomers, but he would never be as pure as Whitebeard. But Dad, I am a little interested in that silver wing, Ikaros. Marco pointed to a wanted poster in another newspaper. The young profile of Ikaros and the white flame wings behind him were photographed at a magical angle. He looked as elegant and noble as the reader. Otachan of Flame, the ancient Greek god of photography. In the new era created by Roger, countless powerful newcomers will emerge. The arrival of a new era is inevitable. Whitebeard said half a riddle to Marco, and then smiled and said, Marco, what do you think? Do you want to fight for it? Haha, Dad, please stop kidding me. Marco said with a smile, I just want to follow you, Dad. If I want to be the Pirate King, it should be you, Dad. I don't have such idea. Gulala. Whitebeard laughed again, and the family was happy and started singing again. In the East China Sea, there are clearly no island clouds above a certain sea area, but several islands are floating in the sky. Ha 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 ha, is it because of my last attack on Marineford that the Navy no longer dares to retreat in the headquarters? In a town somewhere in the North Sea, a blond hooded man wearing a black feather coat and holding a cigarette in his mouth was squatting in the toilet. With a swipe of his finger, a transparent area was drawn. Soundproof wall. If any member of Don Quixote's family came here at this time, they would find that Rocinante, a cadre of Don Quixote's family, code-named Red Heart Corazon, and who had always been known as a mute, was not actually a mute. Rocinante pulled out a Den Den Mushi from his pocket and dialed a number. Soon, the other end of the Den Den Mushi was connected. Xiaomiguo. The other side asked first. Dawsonbei, it's me. Rocinante said. Doflamingo seems to have known the plan to ambush the beast's pirates and reported it to Kaido. However, the person on the other end of the phone was unusually calm. I have already guessed this matter. After all, he is a former celestial dragon and is still connected to the world government. It is normal for him to have some means of obtaining information. Ah, Rocinante was stunned for a moment, then he smiled and said, it seems that your plan has not been completely exposed, Dasenbei. It's just a little different from what Kaido knows, but we still have to fight him in the end, and the situation is still grim. Well, I feel relieved now. Rocinante forced a smile. Do you need me to check Doflamingo's information channels? No need, just take care of yourself, Xiaomiguo, you must protect yourself. After hanging up the phone, Zangguo looked at the sparkling blue sea and sighed. He is the big senbei who talks to Rocinante, and he is also the one who adopted Rocinante, who has been wandering since childhood. A year ago, Rocinante took the initiative to go to the Don Quixote family to lurk among them and report Doflamingo's whereabouts and important information. His only superior is Zangguo, but in fact, Zangguo did not want Rocinante to go undercover in the Don Quixote family. After years of getting along with each other, he had already regarded Rocinante as his own son. Report to General Zangguo, the deployment around Seafood Island has been completed. A Navy officer saluted Zangguo, bringing his thoughts back to reality. Okay, you've worked hard, you can go down. Zangguo waved his hand, then regrouped himself, like a king descending to the earth. Do you think you can win? A voice suddenly came from the shadows. A big man with an extremely broad chest and hair shaped like the Chinese character, Shan, slowly walked out from there. Admiral, Air. All the arrangements have been completed. Although it is indeed a bit simple, it is enough. As long as that old bastard Garp is capable, anyway, there is still the trump card of you, Marshal Kong. Kaido will never guess what my real purpose is. No matter what, this time, the advantage is mine. We will win. At this time, the warring states declared victory. Chapter 50 Seafood Island Battle, is this the place? Kaido's big dragon head poked forward, and his breath alone was enough to cause a gust of wind. The beast's pirates do not have a record pointer for the Seafood Island. Since this deserted island is located near Impel Down, generally no one would store a magnetic record pointer here. So Kaido first used Marihoa as a springboard, crossed the sky above the Red Earth continent, and then headed towards the huge Whirlpool Current area. The huge Whirlpool Current area is the area where the three world government institutions, namely the Naval Headquarters, Judicial Island, and Impel Down, are located. The three major institutions control each other's huge whirlpool currents through the opening and closing of the Gate of Justice to quickly reach another institution. If there is no control of the Gate of Justice, it will keep spinning in this sea area following the ocean current and it will be difficult to escape. Jin took out Quinn's special super telescope and looked down. After a while, he put it away and nodded, saying, it should be around here. Haha, then, let's have a big fight. Kaido laughed and controlled the flame cloud to dive down with him. The pirates hurriedly hid in the cabin to avoid falling off the ship. The Seafood Island is right next to the outer edge of the huge whirlpool current, so Kaido also landed his ship in the outer sea area and then split up to act. Except for the warships where Ikaros and Yamato were, the remaining warships were all led by Kaido and Jin and headed straight for the Seafood Island. Ikaros and Yamato rushed to Impel Down, the outer waters near the Gate of Justice, waiting for the real escort team to arrive. Lieutenant Admiral Suru, the user of the Wash Wash fruit, Doflamingo's natural enemy, and a believer in pure justice. Her fruit ability is rather troublesome, but her physical skills and domineering strength should not be as strong as Sengoku and Garp. Ikaros estimated that he should be at the level of an elite lieutenant general, or perhaps a little stronger. Of course, he might also be a little weaker due to old age and physical frailty. At this level, if all he had to do was hold her back, Yamato would be able to do it on his own. As for Ikaros himself, he would naturally have to deal with one of Kizaru, Akainu or Kuzan who might appear, or all three together. That's right, Ikaros was certain that the Navy would do something to the team that Crane was escorting Jack and Black Maria with. When it comes to arresting Teacher Kai, the Navy has done it countless times, but has it ever been able to really do anything to Teacher Kai? In the end, it was Teacher Kai who got the food for free and left. So, the Navy's real target is not Mr. Kai. In other words, the targeting of Mr. Kai shown to the outside world is just for the outside world, or even for the Navy's internal staff to see. The real goal of the Navy is to cut off the middle-level leaders of the Beast's pirates, and even King, the second in command of the Beast's pirates. Of course, it is also possible that the Navy's plan is indeed that simple, and they will not do anything to Crane's team. In that case, it would be easier to handle. They can just rob Jack and Black Maria and run away. So, while Ikaros was waiting here, on the other side of the seafood island, Kaido had already led the pirates to fight against the Navy. Kaido, Sengoku roared, and hundreds of cannons were immediately pushed out from all the warships, firing at Kaido's warships. And not only on the warships, but also on the seafood island there were dozens of cannons firing shells simultaneously. Kaido was still in the form of a dragon at this time, flying above the sea. Facing the hundreds of shells flying towards him, he just snorted disdainfully, then opened his mouth and roared. Countless wind blades flew out of Kaido's mouth, cutting all the shells in front of him, and exploded halfway through their flight. The range of the bad wind was very large, but it did not include all the shells. Some of the remaining shells were aimed at by the gunners and used artillery to attack other artillery pieces, while others were destroyed by capable pirates using long-range means. Jin did not take action, but hid in the dark. Due to the bad wind, all the Navy's shells were useless, or they could only bomb the sea surface and had no effect on the Beast's pirates at all. Hee, guys, bring the boat over, landing battle. Kaido laughed and took the initiative to stare at Sengoku. The sky suddenly became windy and cloudy, dyeing the entire sea battlefield inky black. Crack, there was thunder and lightning wandering in the dark clouds, as if it was about to strike down at any moment. Zangguo looked at the flying dragon with a serious expression, still feeling a little surprised. Previously, Whitebeard was called the strongest man in the world because of his strength and the development of the tremor fruit. However, now it seems that Kaido should not be underestimated. None of these big pirates are easy to deal with. There is also the golden lion Shiki who cut off his own legs and escaped from the Impel Down castle. There has been no news of him since he escaped several years ago, and no one knows where he is doing evil. Thinking about it this way, the Navy really has enemies everywhere. Fortunately, these big pirates do not gather together to do things, otherwise, let alone the Navy, even if the power of the entire world government is united, it may not be enough to fight. The glory of the Rock's pirates in the past will never happen again. Kaido, Sengoku jumped off the boat and stood on the shore. He shouted loudly and his whole body instantly rose taller. In an instant, a huge Buddha as big as a giant appeared in front of everyone, emitting dazzling golden light all over its body. Human fruit mythical beast species great Buddha form. Zangguo threw a punch, and an invisible shock wave followed the direction of the punch and blasted towards Kaido. Hot breath. Kaido was not afraid at all, and he exhaled a breath of hot breath, which collided with the shock wave of the Buddha of Warring States. After all, Sengoku's great Buddha shock wave was just a one-time punch, while Kaido's heat breath could be continuously output. Sengoku had no intention of confronting heat breath head-on, so he moved sideways to avoid the column of fire from heat breath. Immediately afterwards, a column of fire was seen shooting forward, directly piercing through a small hill on the seafood island, leaving a large charred hole. How terrifying! This is the great pirate, Kaido. Some Navy officers were deeply shocked by the terrifying attack power of Kaido's hot breath, and they couldn't help but tremble. They're just pirates, what are you afraid of? A voice sounded beside the Marine, and the Marine immediately straightened up. Yes, Lieutenant General Sakazuki. Sakazuki looked at the hill that was pierced through and was also shocked. But compared to Kaido, he wants to see Ikaros, the man who defeated him. He wants to avenge his previous humiliation. Kaido is so scary. Borsellino appeared, pouting his lips and saying his catchphrase. Allah, shall we go? Everyone. Kuzan made a move that was completely different from Akainu and Kizaru, showing his own eccentricity.